Good evening. Good evening, one and all, and welcome. Do let me know if you can hear me in the chat box. Let me know that the mic's working fine this evening. That would be fantastic. As I say, tonight we have rather a long stream to get through, so we'll be dealing with both the cases of the twins L and M. Yeah, just let me know if you can hear me in the chat box. Oh, don't worry, Laura. We'll still be here. Don't you worry about that. We'll definitely be here. We've got about 74 pages to get through this evening in terms of Lucy Letby's evidence in chief, and then we've got the cross-examination, or my narration of the cross-examination, I should say, which will last about an hour. So, yeah, it's probably going to be a good 2.5, maybe even a 3.5 hour stream. So, yeah, should be good. Sound is fine. Yeah, hopefully it's not as low as what it was yesterday, because I listened back to it and even I thought it was incredibly low. So hopefully the levels have sorted themselves out and we're all good. Right, before we start with the introductions, as it were, thank you to Chrissy McCall for the gifted membership. Greatly appreciated. And the new member, Katya. Welcome. As per usual, we'll be taking a look at the official court transcripts concerning Lucy Letby's original trial. These transcripts have been paid for by myself and the channel. And basically what we'll do in this particular episode is read through Lucy Letby's defence in terms of her evidence in chief, where she was asked questions by her own barrister, Benjamin Myers KC, concerning a specific case, or tonight, 2 specific cases. And then we'll take a look at the opposite side. So then we'll take a look at her cross-examination again on the same 2 cases. So we'll get a good idea, factually speaking, of Lucy Letby's defence and then the prosecution. Adam is just too kind. It says crime scene to courtroom is the man. Well, I don't know about that, but thank you very much. Greatly appreciated. Violet has been gifted. That's fantastic. Excellent. Good stuff. Good stuff. That's good to hear. What else have we got in here? Lindsay H, welcome to you. JC, welcome to you. Michelle. Emma Rose. Lenny Russell is here this evening. Thank you for moderating this evening, Lenny, as always. Silver Fox. Silver Fox is on it. Who else we got here? Michelle. We've got Matt Winnicott. Welcome, welcome. Looks like a Toronto Maple Leafs fan by the looks of that avatar or profile picture. So, yeah, up the Leafs. Who else have we got here? Louisa, welcome to you. Reva, thanks for joining us. Adam Killer Hills in the house. Vanessa, welcome to you. Terence Stamper, talking about his love for, Indian food by the looks of things. Miss Rattle, welcome to you. And as per usual, yes, we'll go through Lucy Letby's evidence in chief. We'll start in a couple of minutes' time. We'll just wait for some other people to turn up. And then we've got 74 pages of Lucy Letby's evidence in chief to get through. And then we'll move over to her cross-examination. And what's Terry put there? Dum-ba-dum-ba-dum. Yeah, so if you do wish to support the work that I do and the stream, you can find out how to do that down in the video description box below. All help, as I always say, is greatly, greatly appreciated. Emma Rose, welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. Gaynor, thank you for joining us this evening.
Oh my God!
Let's have a look here. Killer Hills, I've already said hello to you. John, welcome to you. Glad you could join us this evening again. Mary. Where's Mary? It just moved. There we are. Mary C267. Welcome to you. Yeah, I'm going to be chucking in the odd sound effect here and there because I've actually discovered them on my mic software. So if you do hear the odd random sound effect, don't worry. It's just me. You're not going mad. And we've got Abby, who loves, I love this, I'm playing The Sims. I used to like a bit of the old Sims back in the day. Yeah, a bit of the old Sims. Yeah, I do quite like this one. I have to say I'm a little bit addicted to this.
Oh my God!
I'll try not to overuse it, but I can't promise. Right, anyway. I don't know if that's sound effects will make this so much better. Yeah, I've got well, actually, I haven't got quite a few. I'm very limited, but that one just seems to make me laugh. So there we go. Right, anyway, let's get on with... Philip thought it was his phone going off. No, it's just me. Kimberly, welcome to you. Thanks for joining us. Right then, so let's start with Lucy Letby's evidence in chief. And as I say, this evening, we're taking a look at two cases because they're pretty much dealt with together during Lucy Letby's cross-examination and also her evidence in chief. So we'll chuck in two together and we'll see how we get on. So let's just move this here very briefly. And as I say, in terms of the memberships, we'll have a members live stream either Saturday or Sunday. I'm yet to work out what day that's going to be, but I'll keep you all informed. Right, okay. 2 seconds and we shall begin. Okay, right, let's have a little sip of the old green tea, the organic green tea, and get started. Okay, so this is Benjamin Myers' KC. Moving on to baby's L&M, which is a period of a little under 2 months, February through to April 2016. Again, you're working in the unit still. Lucy replies, yes, full-time. Full-time? Which shifts? She replies, a mixture of days and nights. What was it you wanted to achieve for the babies that you were looking after over this period? She replies, to provide the best care possible. Because over this 5-month period or so, we've picked out here 4 babies. She replies, yes. But how many, in fact, would you have been looking after over that period, if it's possible to estimate a number? She replies, oh, many, probably 100. All right, at different times on different shifts? She replies, yes. Is that an estimate rather than a precise measurement? She replies, yes. Let's review the details relating to child L and child M then, before we look at what you say about this. Child L, put up tile 1 for child L sequence, please, Mr. Murphy. We can go into the tile, but we don't need to open it up. Go behind the tile front, thank you. So child L and child M, born on the 8th of April 2016. Child L is twin 1, born at 10:13, 33 weeks and 2 days gestation. 1,465 grams in weight, caesarean section. In the case of child L, we're dealing with an event that takes place from about the 9th of April, 10 AM to 1500 hours on the 11th, 3 PM. This is an episode of low blood sugar, so calculated by Professor Hindmarsh, a period of about 53 hours. We'll come to the chart in a moment. The blood sample taken between 12 noon and 15:45 on the 9th of April. Dr. Yuko gave evidence about that, his recollection. His note refers to 12 noon, but we looked at a period in evidence between 12 noon and 15:45. The blood sugar reading was insulin 1,099 picomoles per litre, that's 1,099 picomoles per litre. C-peptide 264 picomoles per litre. As we know now, that ratio between insulin and C-peptide means the insulin level is far higher than C-peptide, and that indicates administration of insulin, an exogenous administration given to the baby. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to the chart that deals with that in a moment. Child M, can we put up tile 2 from child M sequence, please, Mr. Murphy? Child M, born at 10:14 on that day, the 8th of April, twin 2, 1,705 grams. And in the case of child M, the allegation that is in count 16 relates to an episode on April 9th, about 16:02, when he was apneic, desaturated, and there was bradycardia, and he required CPR for 25 minutes, although there was a recovery from that. So count 15 relates to the period over the 9th, 10th, and 11th of April of low blood sugar in the case of child L. Count 16, an episode, 1602. We see it as 1600 elsewhere. So 1600 or 1602, apnea, desaturation and bradycardia in the case of child M, which required CPR. Before we get to the particular details relating to the twins, Miss Letby, I'd like to look at your circumstances around this time. Okay, let's make sure I'm on the right one. Yes. Let's look at this sequence. This is from Sophie Ellis to you, Miss Letby, 2104 on the 8th of April. So this is the morning of the day when the twins were born. How's the house, pal? And 58, please, a response by you to Sophie Ellis. Hey, it feels a bit weird having a whole house, but it's good, thanks. Although stuff everywhere has moved in properly on Tuesday and been at work Wednesday, Thursday and today. Doing tomorrow as an extra, so I'll see you tomorrow night. Won't be such an early start for you now back in Chester. Did I hear your grandparents are coming to see you? Tile 59 please, 2128. Sophie Ellis, back to you. Yeah, I bet it does. It'll feel more homely once you've sorted everything out. Geez, 4 LDs in a row. Are you okay? Is that late days? Lucy replies, long days. And then, quote, I know, yay, and I don't have to pay for petrol. It's cost me a fortune. Yeah, they are. Haven't seen them for a while. What's the unit like? 2132, please, tile 60. Yeah, I'll get there in time. Petrol and tunnels soon mounts up, doesn't it? Can you claim travel expenses? I couldn't for 405. Unit is busy. No one particularly unwell, just volume and few people off sick. I prefer 4 days to 4 nights. Least tomorrow is an extra and sat pay. That'll be nice. Hope weather is a bit better for you. 61, 2134, Sophie Ellis to you. Yeah, we can. OMG, really? How come? That's 7 weeks as well, isn't it? Yeah, 4 nights are awful. That's not too bad then. Think I'd prefer to keep busy. I think it's meant to rain. Damn it. Then you to Sophie Ellis, tile 62. Arian said something about the induction being paid for by the trust, whereas the 405 comes out of the network budget. So won't pay as it's an expected part of the role to progress, etc. Mad really, and costs a bomb. We've got a nice mix of babies at the mo really. Shift goes quick anyway. Typical April showers, ha ha. Nurse E's in Thailand and it's been 44 degrees today. And then 63 please, 2143, you to Nurse E. Your painting is finished, thumbs up. Got soaked walking home from work. Doing tomorrow as an extra now, a few more pennies. Thank you. Pausing there. With what we've just dealt with, what was going on in your life at this point, Miss Letby? That meant there was a change of organisation. She replies, so at that time, I just moved into the house in Westbourne Road that we've seen. Mr. Myers. How big an issue was that for you? She replies, it was a massive life moment, moving into a house. How much was your mind on that? She replies, very much on it. Did you get everything in one go? She replies, no. Did it take time to get it all sorted out? She replies, it did, yes. So when you weren't at work, what were you doing, or what did you want to do? She replies, sorting out the house. You made a reference there, got soaked walking home from work. That message is still on the screen, yes. Had you moved into the house by this time? She replies, yes. So, did you walk from the house to the hospital? I did, yes. How far is the house from the hospital? She replies, it's about a 20-minute walk. Do you recall how busy it was on the unit over this period? She replies, it was still fairly busy. I don't think it was quite as busy as previously. Mr. Myers. Can we go to tile 324? We'll go to tile 324. This is a message from you to Nurse E. It's on the 11th of April, so a couple of days later, 8:45 in the morning. The unit is in a dire way with staff. Other nights it was Mina, Claire B and Tracy Jones trained, and then Sam, Sophie as extra, Nurse C and Tracy Jones with 4 HDU, event, a baby over exchange line and 1 on 15% decks. Can you unravel for us what you're getting at there, what that's about? Lucy replies, at this point the unit is incredibly busy and we didn't have adequate staffing to cater for all the needs of the babies at that point. A lot of the staff there, for example Claire B and Tracy Jones, are bank or agency staff. They weren't even our regular members of staff. And then we had Band 5s on that did not have the ITU course in Sam and Sophie. Mr. Myers. Are you the only person that ever pointed out? Are you the only person that ever pointed out that it seemed to be very busy? She replies, no, it was often discussed amongst the nursing staff. Right, stop there for a second. Ali, welcome to you. Ohio in the US. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated. Welcome, Brenda. Thank you for joining us. Right, let's have a little sip of the old tea. Okay, who else have we got here? Christina, thanks for joining us. JC, welcome to you. Rachel Bonsall, thank you for joining us. Oh yeah, and don't forget to hit the like button, as I always seem to forget. So yeah, don't forget to hit the like button. Much appreciated. Right, okay. Welcome, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. Right, okay. And now a word from the sponsors. Insert green tea brand here. I actually should be sponsored by green tea. Clipper Organic Green Tea. Yeah, all money generated from this stream goes to the purchasing of Clipper Organic tea bags, just to let you know. Right, okay, let's continue onwards. This is going to take ages, so let's get cracking with it. Okay, so we've got Mr. Myers. Can we look please next to tile 265? Sorry about moving back. 265 is Yvonne Farmer to you, the 10th of April, 10:50 in the morning. Hi, we have shifts tonight, Monday day or night if you would like some more overtime. Thanks, but appreciate you may be tired. Pausing there. Is it unusual to get requests to come in at relatively short notice? Lucy replies, no, this would happen regularly. Why is Yvonne Farmer the person asking you? She replies, she's part of the management team. Right. Can we go down to tile 276, please? This is that same day, 1417. Jennifer Jones key to you. Hi, how are you? You enjoying your new home? And your reply at 277, please, Mr. Murphy. Hey, I'm okay, thanks. Bit knackered after 4 hard days at work, though. House is good, unpacking. How's you? Does that describe where your life was at this point, Miss Letby? She replies, yes. And at this time, I was also house-sitting for Nurse E. I've mentioned about her painting being finished. I was looking at her animals at the house. I was looking after her animals at the house as well. I guess that's supposed to be, not looking at them. I was looking at her animals at the house as well. Right. Mr. Myers. All right. How good is your recollection amongst all of that, of events over the days we're looking at with the babies L and M? She replies, I do have some quite clear recollection of certain aspects. Mr. Myers. What was your first or earliest involvement with them? She replies, I attended the delivery of the twins, and I was allocated to look after twin 1, which was child L. We know the delivery is on the 8th of April 2016. Yes. So when you say you attended the delivery, does that mean you were there in the room when they were... That's right, she says. When we came onto the shift and we knew that the twins were going to be delivered, myself and Amy were designated to look after a twin each. Mr. Myers. Is it specifically a nurse or nurses from the neonatal unit who are asked to help at that time? Or could a nurse who's not neonatal from the children's ward be asked to deal with it? She replies, no, they're not trained to do it. It would have to be a neonatal nurse. Mr. Myers. Why is it that neonatal nurses were used or needed for something like that? She replies, because they have the specialist training required. And this would also mean that you have to have your ITU training as well. So junior members of staff would not be able to attend a delivery. Sticking first of all with the day of the 8th of April after they were born, and we know they were born at 10:13 and 10:14 a.m. This is April 8th. You mentioned Amy Davies. Yes, Amy Davies is who? She replies, one of the band's 6 nurses. You were both there at the delivery, were you? Lucy replies, yes, it's standard practice that you would have a member of staff per baby. The babies, do they go to the neonatal unit after delivery? She replies, yes. Who is designated for them when they went to the neonatal unit? She replies, the nurse that was designated to them at delivery. So, who was looking after child L? Lucy replies, myself. And who was looking after child M? Amy. Which nursery did they go into? She replies, nursery 1. Now, on that day, can you help us with where they were positioned in nursery 1? She replies, yes. Tell us then. I asked that for you to tell us. Bit rude. Just a bit rude. Now on that day, can you help us with where they were positioned in nursery 1? Yes. Tell us then. I asked that for you to tell us. She replies, so as you walk into nursery 1, child M was on the first space on the right hand side, and child L was directly in front of the door. Mr. Myers. I'm going to ask, in fact, if it's possible to put up a plan that we have so we can be quite clear about where they were on the 8th. I'll be going to redacted, but at the moment, if we enlarge it so we can see nursery 1, thank you, Mr. Murphy. For the time being, Miss Letby, please disregard the marks that were put on. This is by nurse B. Just looking at nursery 1, which is the one in the centre? Tell us where child M and where child L were located when they came onto the unit on April 8th. She replies, child M was where the number 1 digit is. Child L was where B is. Right. Child M, as you said, on the right as you walk in, yes, through the door above the word unit. She replies, yes. And child L opposite that? Yes. 2 seconds. Mr. Myers, did you care for child L during that day? She replies, I did, yes. Were you back on the unit the following day? Yes. We've seen in the messages the reference to the number of days you had been working. She replies, yes, I was asked to come in the next day as an extra because the unit was so busy. Mr. Myers. So we're talking about the 9th now when you say, I was asked to come in the next day. They're delivered on the 8th? Yes. Which is the day you asked to come in, the 9th or 10th. Don't worry if you can't remember. Which is the day you were asked to come in, the 9th or the 10th? Don't worry if you can't remember. She replies, I'm not sure. I know I was asked to do extra. At some point you were asked to do extra. She replies, yes. When you came in on the 9th, which is the day when the events were most concerned with commence, were the twins in the same position? She replies, no. Can you tell us what the position was when you came in on the 9th? Is the 9th the Saturday? Mr. Myers replies, yes, it's the 2nd day. Lucy Letby. At this point, there had been admissions into nursery 1 overnight, and as a result, child M had been put into a corner space, which is the space labelled A on this diagram. Mr. Myers. Were they not in nursery 1 in the first place, sorry? Did you say that they had been admitted into nursery 1 overnight? Lucy replies, no, there had been other admissions of other babies, meaning that the space was needed, so child M was moved. Mr. Myers. Sorry, right, we'll go back over that then. Sorry, I must have misheard. Then the judge, Mr. Justice Goss, then says, no, you didn't, it's all right, a slip of the tongue. Anyway, the point is that child M had moved. Mr. Myers. On the 9th, child M had been moved. And can you tell us where he had been moved to? Lucy replies, to the corner where it says A on the map. Mr. Myers, this is a plan that was drawn, we may recall, by nurse B, which is why it's marked redacted. So child M is where the A is. Yes. Where was child L? He remained in space B. Mr. Myers. And then putting this together, could you tell us why it was that child M had been put in that position? Lucy replies, yes, there had been admissions of a new baby overnight, which had required intensive care. So child M had been moved to allow that baby to go into that space. Right, thank you. Now, we'll start first. We're looking at child L and how the events go with him. But both babies are in the same nursery. That's correct, isn't it? Lucy replies, yes. And as we know, on the 9th, there's an overlap in events, so we'll try and deal with it in sequence. What we can start with, if we go there, is to look at the chart that sets out the course of the blood sugar readings in the case of child L. That's, we may remember, behind divider 6, ladies and gentlemen, divider 6 in jury bundle 1. Can I ask you a little bit more about blood sugar levels? If we go from the point that the baby is born, at what point are babies' blood sugar levels first checked? She replies, within the first hour of life. Right, stop there for a second. Rachel Barker with the 9.99.
Oh my God!
That is incredibly generous. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciated. I'll just clear my throat 2 seconds. That's better. Thank you very much, Rachel. Much appreciated. Right, let's see who else we've got here. Welcome to Jane. Thank you for joining us. Let's have a look here. Brenda Wilkinson, that woke me up. Yeah, well, I've got to use it at the appropriate times. I can't keep spamming it, can I? So, you know, I want to play it all the time, but I can't. So I'm just saving it for the, you know, the opportune moments. Let's have a look here. Yep, we've got the messages. Don't you worry. They are appearing on the screen loud and clear. Welcome to Jean Ann. Thank you for joining us. Cosmic Kitten is back in the building. Welcome, Cosmic Kitten. Thank you for joining us. Right, 2 seconds, guys, and then we will start again. G. Stewart from Cape Town in good old South Africa. Welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us. Oh yeah, and don't forget to hit the like button, as Michelle has just kindly reminded me. And again, thank you so much for that, Rachel. Much appreciated. Right, 2 seconds and we shall continue. Okay, so we've got Benjamin Myers. Let's make sure we're on the correct page here. Yes, so Benjamin Myers. Right. Can we put up on the screens tile 5, please, which are the blood gas readings? We know that child L is born at 10:13. So what's the blood glucose reading in the first hour of life, so far as the blood gas record assists? She replies, it's low. It's low. What is it, in fact, when we look 1.9? 1.9. Is it you that's recorded that in here? She replies, yes. What was the standard way of dealing with a baby on the unit who has low blood sugar? She replies, a baby that has just been born like this, who has a low blood sugar, would firstly be offered a milk feed. A what feed, sorry? A milk feed. By that, do you mean from a bottle? She replies, either nasogastrically or a bottle feed, and then the blood sugar would be rechecked in an hour's time. Right. Is that what happened in the case of child L? She replies, no. Do you recall what did happen in the case of child L? She replies, yes. With child L, he was commenced on IV fluids, 10% dextrose, which is outside of the usual protocol. Who decided child L should be dealt with in that way? She replies, it was the registrar, Dr. Bomick. Can we put up tile 43 then, please? Just scroll down towards the bottom of that page where we've got the entry. This is an entry by you on the 8th of April, 1742. So this is the day of birth, the day when you were looking after child L. Can you identify for us? Take time to look through this. Any entry that relates to what you've just been telling us about the way the blood sugar is dealt with in a newborn baby. She replies, yes, it's the passage that starts, initial blood sugar shortly after birth. Mr. Myers, could you read that out for us so we can see what it is you said? She replies, initial blood sugar shortly after birth 1.9 mmol. Advised by Reg Bomic to commence 10% glucose at 3 ml/kg/hour and give 60 ml/kg day of donor expressed breast milk. Myself and shift leader A. Davies have discussed this with Reg Bomic as it does not follow the hypoglycemia pathway, and subsequent blood sugars have been 2.5 millimoles and 5.8 with enteral feeds well tolerated. Mr. Myers, thank you. That note where it refers first of all to discussing this with A. Davies, is that the other nurse that you were on duty with? She replies, yes. And that's the nurse who was designated for child M? Yes. When you were discussing this with Registrar Bomic, what is it you're discussing? She replies, that it's a deviation from the usual policy. So the usual policy would be to give milk and then progress to IV fluids if needed. Dr. Bomic wanted to start with fluids straight away, or start the fluids straight away. Is that what happened? It is, yes. Thank you. If it's with fluids, how are they delivered? She replies, through an intravenous line. And from what do they come from? She replies, the fluids. Yes. What do you hang it on? What do you hang on it? She replies, a 10% bag of dextrose. Right, that's how the blood sugar comes into the baby. She replies, yes. And the idea is then that brings the blood sugar up. Yes. And was a bag hung for child L as a result of what Dr. Bomic, yes, set out? All right. Well, having looked at that, and before lunchtime, let's have a look at the chart. We should have it in front of us now. Can I check? Do you have a copy there? She replies, yes. All right, I'm not going to look at every entry, but just to orientate ourselves to this before we look in detail at particular aspects, we can see the date of birth is the 8th of April 2016. Can you see that, Miss Letby? She replies, yes. That's where we start. We've got 10:58 and a blood sugar reading of 1.9. That's the one we've looked at, isn't it? Yes. At 12 o'clock, we've got dextrose rate changed or other event. Can you help us with what it is that's happening at 12 o'clock, where we see dextrose appear for the first time? What has happened there? She replies, the 12 o'clock is when a bag of 10% glucose has been commenced, and it's running at 3 ml/kg/hour. Mr. Myers, and can you recall, or do you know from what you know about the case now, who hung that bag up? She replies, I couldn't say, no. I know who it was checked with, but there's no way of knowing who definitely hung the bag. Which nurses will have done that? She replies, Amy Davies and myself. Mr. Myers, that's what I meant, sorry. So that bag is hung at 12 o'clock. We can see if we just go down towards the thick black line, various blood sugar readings over the course of that day up to midnight. Just to remind us all, the evidence that we have from Professor Hindmarsh is at this stage there is nothing there that arouses any criticism or concern in the case of a baby like child L. What time would you have finished your shift on this particular day? She replies, approximately 2000. Right, so where we have 2100, 2200 and 2400, that is after you have finished. She replies, yes. If we now move to April 9th, 2016, we can see timings from 3, 4, 5, of which there's no reference to any blood sugar. At 10 o'clock, 1.9 is recorded. Is 1.9 the appropriate level of blood sugar, Miss Letby, for a baby on 10% dextrose? She replies, no, that's too low. Too low, right. That's the point you may recall, ladies and gentlemen, that Professor Hindmarsh takes the initial low reading of blood sugar. Right, let's read that again. Too low, right. That's the point you may recall, ladies and gentlemen, that Professor Hindmarsh takes the initial low reading of blood sugar from. We carry on, blood sugar lower at 12 o'clock, 1200 hours at 1.6. Were you back on duty by this time? She replies, yes. What time had you come on duty? She replies, 7:30 that morning. So on the 9th at 7:30, you were there again on duty. We'll look after lunchtime what the evidence shows us about bag changes, but let's just remind ourselves of this. At 1400 hours, the reading is 2. In between 1.6 at 12 and 2 at 1400, or rather at the 12 o'clock entry, we can see it says 3 mil kg hour equals 4.4 mil/hour. Can you see that? She replies, yes. Do you know what it is that's happened at that point from what we see there? She replies, the infusion has been increased to 3 mil per kilogram per hour. Mr. Myers, right, so the change in the infusion. Yes. At 1500 hours, it's 1.5. 1540, a bolus of 4.3 of 10% dextrose. Do you see that? She replies, yes. Is that right? A bolus of 4.3. Is that not supposed to be a reading of 4? No, that's probably not right. Let's just read it as it is. Mr. Myers, that's a particular delivery of dextrose. Is it bolus? She replies, yes, that is 4.3 millilitres, which is drawn up into a syringe out of the bag and given as a bolus, so given straight into the line. Mr. Myers, before we go to the papers, do you recall or do you know who was involved in delivering that bolus? She replies, no. Go over the page, please. That was at 1540. At 1600, we can see blood glucose is 1.5. That's low, isn't it? Yes. And at or about that time, as the chart identifies, child M collapsed. Yes. That's what we have with these two meters, or matters I should say. That's what we have with these two matters going on simultaneously. That's what we have with these two matters going on simultaneously. At 1630, there's a 12% dextrose bag. Lucy Letby, 12.5%. Yes, sorry, 12.5% dextrose. Who started that? She replies, that was Belinda Williamson and Ashley Hudson. Right, is that a new bag? Yes, or the same bag. It's a new bag. 1700, blood sugar 1.7. So half an hour later, is 1.7 the right level or too low? She replies, no, it's still too low. 1800, 1.9, low. We carry on with a series of readings up to 2400 hours, all of which are identified as low blood sugar readings. We go to the 10th of April, which is the second day for Professor Hindmarsh. 0200, a reading of 2.1. 0230, 0300, 15% glucose prescribed at 6 mil per hour. Lucy replies, yes. Do you know from looking at this how that will have been delivered or not? She replies, a bag would have had to have been drawn up to have 15% in it. That's not something that is stocked on the unit. So that's a procedure that 2 nurses would have to have done to make up a bag of that concentration. So with a new bag, she replies, yes. 0400, so about an hour to an hour and a half later, a 2.3 blood glucose. Again, is that the right level or too low? She replies, no, it's still low. 0600, 2.2, still low. We can see going forwards at 1400 hours, the blood sugar gets to 3. Is that an adequate level? She replies, yes. But then it drops after that, doesn't it? Yes. Going up to midnight on that day, the 10th of April, we'll just follow this through. The 11th of April, 0100, it sets out 15% glucose, 2.5 mil per hour. Is that a change of rate from what it had been? Is that a change of rate from what it had been on up to that point? She replies, mine says 10.5 mil. Is that a change of rate from what it had been before? She replies, yes. Then at 0145, when it says 15% started by Caroline Oakley, Samantha O'Brien, what is that referring to? She replies, I'd need to look definitively on the charts, but it looks like that is another new bag of 15%. I'd need to look definitively on the chart, but it looks like that is another new bag of 15%. Mr. Myers, go over the page then, the final page, 0200. That new bag had been started. Blood sugar 2.7. Is that low or right? She replies, no, that's good. 0500, 2.9. 11 o'clock, 2.8. That's dropped from the 2.9. Yes. Is that in the acceptable range at 2.8? She replies, yes. And then 1500, we have 3.5, and it's gone up from there as we get to the end of the chart, hasn't it? She replies, yes. Again, just to assist you and to remind the jury, it's when we get to 3.5 and the blood sugar appears to stabilise at that higher level Professor Hindmarsh took as the cut-off period of his 53 hours. Yes, says Lucy Letby. So that's what we're dealing with on that chart, my lord. Perhaps I can stop there, Mr. Justice Goss, the judge. Yes, certainly, we will resume at 2:10, please. Thank you very much. So they have a short break. Right, so let's stop there for a moment. Right, 2 seconds. Jane with the £4.99.
Oh my God!
That is incredibly generous. Thank you very much, Jane. Much appreciated. Right, bear with me. Let me just scroll back through the old chat here. Just make sure I haven't missed anything. Well, I'm glad you say that, Tony. Some people would say the complete opposite, but yes, I'm very thankful that you do like it. That's excellent. Much appreciated. Right, let's just make sure I don't miss anything here, and then we will resume. Right, I don't think I've missed anything. Jenny Pete Mills, you're driving to Norfolk. What the hell are you going there for, Jenny? You're not going to go and pick some potatoes or something, are you? Or some carrots? Oh dear. I think I've been to Norfolk. Oh yeah, I have been to Norfolk. I've been to the Norfolk Broads, which is actually really nice. So yeah, don't listen to me. Anne, welcome. Thanks for joining us this evening. Tweeter and the Monkey Man.
Oh my God!
Thank you for joining us this evening. Right, okay, let's get back to it. Right, there's 31 pages down. Actually, you're on page 31, so we've got another 40 something to do before we get onto the cross-examination. Pray for me. That's all I can say. Pray for me. Vicky Maguire in the hot tub, listening to Crime Scene to Courtroom.
Oh my God!
That is quite something. Right, let's continue. Thank you for that. I hope you're having a lovely, relaxing evening. Okay, so in the presence of the jury, Mr. Myers, thank you, my lord. Members of the jury, can we go to the paper copies of the exhibits, which are in jury bundle 2, Miss Letby, ladies and gentlemen, and go behind divider 15, which is paperwork relating to child L. And simultaneously, can we put up tile 10 on the screens, which covers the same point? But we have it in both forms then. It's the infusion therapy prescription sheet, which is the first page behind divider 15, and it should have a red 17948 in the bottom right hand corner. So we're on bundle 2, divider 15, page 17948. But we've got it on the screen as well if anyone's got any trouble with the paper. Before lunchtime, Miss Letby, we went over, with the help of the chart, what you could say about what had taken place and what Professor Hindmarsh's, or the chart that was based on much of what Professor Hindmarsh said could tell us? We'll actually go to the infusion therapy prescription sheet for child L, and we'll take this in steps, and you can explain to us what we see here. We know what's going on with the blood sugar from the chart that we looked at. So where do we start for the first relevant entry on this chart? Lucy replies, the first top line. The top line, all right? The line that says 8 for the 4th, 16, time 11 o'clock. Yes. And there's a kind of squiggle running through that line. Yes, going from left to right. Will you explain to us what this line is telling us? She replies, so this is the line where a bag of 10% dextrose has been prescribed. So it's been prescribed at 1100 hours on the 8th of the 4th. It's a 500ml bag of 10% dextrose. Then we've got the duration of the infusion written down, the route being IV, and the doctor that has prescribed it. That's their signature. Mr. Myers. Okay, I'm going to ask you to stop there for a moment. You'd given evidence that there was a discussion with the registrar about putting child L onto fluids straight away rather than milk. Yes. Is this related to that? She replies, it is, yes. So who's the registrar who signed for this, the doctor? She replies, Registrar Bomick. And that's who you were talking to, about that? She replies, yes. And that's who you were talking to about that? Yes. So this is the dextrose that she prescribed? Yes. Carry on moving across to the right, if you would please, to tell us what we've come to, or to tell us what we come to. She replies, the initials that we see in the nurse doing bag additive, is that right? The initials that we see in the nurse doing bag additive is the registrar's. She has initialed it because she's put a line through the initial prescription. Then the nurse setting up the infusion is myself and Amy Davies at 12 o'clock. Terence has just told me that I need more variety in my sound bites. Well, you know, I'm just starting out with the sound bites, so give me a minute. I will try and find some other ones, but, just bear with me. Okay, so we've got Mr. Myers. Right, firstly, why is there a squiggly line through that entry when we look at it now? She replies, the rate has changed. Initially, Dr. Bomick described... Is that not supposed to be prescribed? I'll just read it as it's written. Dr. Bomick described 4.2 mil an hour. Then we see on the line below that went to 3.6 mil an hour, and again that changed further to 4.4 mil per hour. Mr. Myers. All right, so when we looked on the chart, we saw that on the 8th of April at 12 o'clock, there was a 10% dextrose concentration that began. Yes. Is that what this bag is? She replies, yes, the bag has remained the same. The bag was put up by myself and Amy Davies at 12, and then the items below that refer to rate changes. The rate, all right? She replies, yes. So the line below the one that you and Amy Davies, we've got signatures for, it's got April 8th, 11 o'clock. The same with dextrose, and moving across to the right, we can see 3.6 there. Yes. That was a line's put through that. She replies, because that was also incorrect. So what rate do we end up with so far as this bag is concerned? She replies, so on the next line down, we can see it says 4.4 mil per hour. And also where myself and Nurse Davies have signed, it says 4.4 in the rate next to the 1200. So you're talking about the top line again. She replies, this is me referring to the bag that was set up. Mr. Myers, yes. Lucy Letby, the rate that we eventually got to through two different prescriptions is the rate of 4.4, which we see here. That is the rate that Amy and I started the infusion at. Thank you. So can we all see that you've indicated it's the same bag, but we eventually got to a rate of 4.4? Mr. Myers, that began at 12 o'clock. Yes. If anyone is following the chart that we had behind divider 6 of jury bundle 1, you'll see that that entry at 12 o'clock is at a rate of 4.4, and that's how we get there. Again, please remind us the dextrose bags that you use Where are they stored? She replies, they're kept in a cupboard in nursery 1. Is that different from the place where insulin is stored? She replies, yes. Where is insulin stored? She replies, insulin is stored in the equipment room, which is outside of the nurseries. All right, the dextrose bags stored in nursery 1. What are they stored in? She replies, they're in a cupboard where there's just 2 shelves. We have a shelf for 10% bags and a shelf for 5% bags. Mr. Myers, is there an average figure of how many 10% and how many 5% you have? She replies, I would say about 10 10% and maybe 5% roughly. How commonly is dextrose used on the unit? She replies, very commonly. 10% dextrose is the first line fluid before TPN or milk, so 10% is used all the time. Mr. Myers, so if a baby on the unit needs dextrose running, where will the nurse get that from? She replies, from the cupboard in nursery 1. And the bags that are in that cupboard, who are they used for? Who can they be used for? She replies, they're non-patient specific, so they could be used by any patient on the unit. We have heard with TPN that some of them are prescription TPN bags for a particular baby, and some are for general use. Yes. With the dextrose, are they ever for specific babies? She replies, no, they're not. They're always for generic use. We know some items in the unit are kept under lock and key. Is the dextrose under lock and key? She replies, I can't recall at this moment in time now. Alright, although they're in nursery 1, are they for use only in nursery 1, or are they for use more generally in the whole of the unit? She replies, no, they can be used in any of the nurseries. We can see in this page, tile 10, how this was set up on the 8th of April. We've looked before lunchtime at the way child L progresses up to midnight on the 8th of April. You mentioned before lunchtime about the day that you were or weren't meant to be working over this period, so I'd just like to deal with that as we come to April 9th. Could we go please to the shift pattern at page 33228? We'll see if we can put it on the screen if you could enlarge April. Looking at this, can you tell us which days you were working over this period, Miss Letby? She replies, so I did 4 long days, starting on the 6th and ending on the 9th. Just to keep track of it, the 8th is a Friday, the 9th is a Saturday. She replies, yes, the 9th was the extra shift. Right, so originally, how many days were you meant to be doing? She replies, 3. And I was asked on that Friday evening if I could work the Saturday due to what was happening on the unit. The 3rd day was the day when you and Amy Davies had looked after the twins when they'd been born. She replies, yes. So let's just look, if we could, at the message at tile 51. This was sent on the 8th of April by you to your mother, Mrs. Letby, saying, think I'm doing tomorrow as an extra, but go in a bit later. Extra money and Saturday pay. Again, does that help establish which day was the extra day that you worked? She replies, yes, I can confirm it was the 9th that was the extra shift. Thank you very much. Do you know why you were called upon to do the extra shift? She replies, yes, I was asked on the Friday evening due to the numbers of babies that we had on the unit and the staffing. And Yes, I was asked on the Friday evening due to the numbers of babies that we had on the unit and the staffing that had been rostered to work on the Saturday, that they needed another intensive care trained member of staff. Mr. Myers, I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up a little bit. Is it common to do 4 long days in a row? She replies, we can do up to 4. 4 is sort of the maximum that we would do in a row. Had you been expecting to? She replies, no. Well, we've looked at what happened on the 8th with the insulin bags, with the dextrose bags. We come to what's alleged about the insulin on the 9th. Can we look at the layout, please, on tile 88, tile 88. This is the layout for the shift on April 9th. So this is the extra shift, Miss Letby. Can you help us with who you were working with? Can you help us with who you were looking after on this particular day? She replies, yes, I had 2 babies in nursery 1, GT and TSB. Who else was in nursery 1? She replies, Mary Griffith. And who is she looking after? She looked after child M and child L. You described about where child M had been located. Is this the day that you saw him in a different position? She replies, yes. Again, why had he been moved into that position? She replies, the baby I was caring for, TSB, he required intensive care. Therefore, he went into child M's original space and child M was moved. All right, thank you. Let's go back, if we could now, on the screens to tile 10, please, Mr. Murphy, which is that tile behind divider 15. How long would a dextrose bag usually last? She replies, so they expire at 24 hours. They are changed every 24 hours. So can you help us with when this bag was changed? She replies, so a new bag was commenced at 12 o'clock on the 9th. That was by myself and Mary Griffith. Where do you get the time at 12 o'clock from? She replies, it's... And she said, that's not working, but you see the signature box. It's the time next to it, 12 o'clock. Can you see that clearly? Sorry. Is this the entry for April 9th, 2016? Yes, she replies. I'm reading across for you on the left, going across. 10% dextrose. Is that right? Yes. 500 mil? Yes. Is that the bag? Yes. Then the rate, does that follow? 3 mil per kilogram per hour. Mr. Myers. If we go across towards the right, who signed for it? She replies, myself and Mary Griffith, and it's 12 o'clock. All right, and then Mr. Justice Goss jumps in. So that's 12 o'clock, is it? Lucy replies, yes. Not 12:10. Lucy replies, I read it as 12 o'clock. Mr. Goss, did you write it? She replies, yes. Mr. Goss, so you... And then Lucy jumps in. It looks like my writing. I would say it's 12 o'clock. Mr. Goss, that's fine. Mr. Myers, thank you. Where had that dextrose bag come from? Lucy replies, that bag would have come from the generic bags in nursery 1. And any way of telling from looking at this who hung the bag? She replies, no. What would have been done with the bag prior to it being hung? What's the prescription you go through? Preparation. What's the preparation you go through? She replies, the bag would have been taken out of the cupboard. The bag is in a sealed, clear plastic film. So when you've got 2 staff present, you would then break that film, open and take the bag out, and then you would go about running the fluids through a giving set, so the line that attaches to the bag, and that line eventually attaches to the baby. Mr. Myers, the equipment that's used for that, where does that all come from? She replies, nursery 1. We know from the chart that we have prepared and the evidence that we've had that at 10 o'clock that morning, so prior to this bag being hung, there is a reading of 1.9 blood glucose, yes, which the evidence tells us is too low. Yes. And certainly by then, that's the point at which it is alleged that insulin had been used to lower the blood sugar of child L. You're aware that that's the allegation, aren't you? She replies, yes. So dealing first of all with that, so far as that reading of 1.9 at 10 AM is concerned, which bag would have been hanging at that time? She replies, the initial bag that Amy Davies and I put up on the 8th at 12 o'clock. And the bag that had been running up to midnight. And the bag that had been running up to midnight. Yes. And overnight? Yes. Are you able to assist us with why it is that with that bag there, the blood sugar reading for 1000 hours on the 9th was 1.9? She replies, no. Let's read that again. Are you able to assist us with why it is that with that bag there, the blood sugar reading for 10 o'clock, 1000 hours on the 9th was 1.9? No. Is that a result of anything that you had done? She replies, no. Or do you know how it happened? No. Did you have any involvement with insulin at all, so far as these bags and this baby are concerned over this period? She replies, no, not at all. And if we move forwards to the period around 12 o'clock, 1200 hours, and we know a blood sample was taken, and then at some point, blood between then or maybe several hours later was analysed, and we have the readings that we have for the blood. Did you do anything that caused those readings to be the ones we have with the high level of insulin? She replies, no. Do you understand? This is what I was referring to earlier. The allegation is that insulin is in that bag. She replies, yes. You understand that's the allegation. I understand that, yes. And if we take those readings as accurate, can you explain to us why we have those readings? She replies, no, I can't. Had you done anything to affect insulin? No. Were you and Mary Griffith the only people in nursery 1 that day? She replies, we were the 2 nurses allocated babies in that room, but there was lots of nurses coming in and out of the room throughout the day as well as parents. Excuse me, Mr. Myers. Just so we can be quite clear with your evidence, Miss Letby. By this point, we have the bag that had been hung up at 12 o'clock on April 8th. Is that correct? She replies, yes. Hang on a second. Oh, God. Hang on. Is that correct? Right. Room, yes. Right, okay. Right, stop there for a second. Emma EFC, welcome. Just home from a 12-hour shift.
Oh my God!
Thank you for joining us. Glad you could be here. Right, 2 seconds, guys. Okay. Right, let's continue. We're on page 49 at the moment, so we've got about another 25 to go until we get onto the cross-examination. Right, let's have a look here. And again, thank you so much to Chrissy McCall, Katja, who both became members or gifted a membership, Rachel Barker for the £9.99 super sticker, and also Jane of the £4.99. Right, let's get forward with the next page. Okay, so Mr. Myers. And then we have a second bag hung at 12 o'clock on April 9th. Yes. So this is the second bag that we got. So this is the second bag as we're going along. She replies, yes, thank you. Do you recall any parents in or around the nurseries while this was taking place? She replies, I don't recall specific times in the morning, but yes, parents were present throughout the day. I'm going to ask to put up Exhibit D17, please. This is something I think we saw in the course of the evidence, but let's just go back into it now. It's a note relating to a child, GT. This is for GT. Who's caring for GT on this particular myself? This is one of the babies you were allocated to, yes, in nursery 1, yes. So this is a note at the end of your shift, is that correct? She replies, yes, and she was a high dependency baby. Mr. Myers. We've got that there to establish that's who you're looking after. But I would like to scroll down to the entry at 2015, please, just below this. In fact, I apologise for the markings, they shouldn't be there, but anyway. Parents visiting, carrying out feeds and cares. Mummy left unit at 12:14. At 1600, parents were asked to leave the nursery due to a sick baby needing treatment. Parents were understanding of this and left for the evening. And lower down we see parents now visiting, pleased with move back to nursery 3. That was at 2015. Lucy replies, yes. Pausing there, where it says at 1600 parents were asked to leave the nursery due to a sick baby needing treatment. Which baby is that relating to? Lucy replies, that's relating to child M. And where was child M? Which nursery? Nursery 1. And whose parents is it that were asked to leave the nursery? She replies, GT's parents. Where had they been before that? She replies, they were with GT, their baby. Was that an out of the ordinary event that the parents were present in that nursery? She replies, no, they were very attentive. It's just common practice that we would ask parents to leave if there was something going on in the nursery. Mr. Myers: do you know how long they'd been in the nursery for? She replies, I think the whole time, from what I can recall. You described yesterday how when child G was being tended to, there were parents in the nursery then when the screens were put up. She replies, yes. There were parents in the nursery then when the screens were put up. Yes. Again, if you paint the picture... excuse me. Again, if you paint the picture for the members of the jury, how common it... oh, God, hang on a second, guys. That's why you need the green tea, you see. Right, there we go. Right. Oh, right, let's start again. You described yesterday how... yeah, I've done that part. Lucy replies, yes. Again, if you paint the picture for the members of the jury, how common is it having parents in the nurseries, particularly during the day? She replies, very common. Most babies have parents with them throughout the day. Mr. Myers: and at night time, do you have parents coming to the nurseries as well? She replies, yes, it's 24 hours visiting, so quite often mum's a resident on the labour ward and they will visit during the night, or if parents work in the day, some of them will visit them at night. Some will visit then at night. Mr. Myers: we'll take that tile down, that exhibit down, Mr. Murphy. Would the parents know, in this case GT's parents, would GT parents know that you are allocated nurse for child GT? She replies, yes. Would they talk to you about their child? She replies, yes. How much interest would they pay in the baby? She replies, in their baby. Mr. Myers: She replies, a lot of interest. That's their main focus. And what about interest in you, the nurse looking after the baby? Did they talk to you much? She replies, yes. It's the usual role that as the nurse, you would be there supporting the parents, answering any questions they might have. Mr. Myers: we'll have a look at what happens with child M, because following the timing through, we've reached that point. I'd like to look at the note that's made by Mary Griffith relating to this, because she's the designated nurse, and that's in the child M sequence at tile 148. So could we put that up, please, Mr. Murphy? This is a note by Mary Griffith at 2011 on April 9th, 2016. Care taken over at 7:45. Equipment, alarm limits and fluids calculated, or checked I should say. Self-ventilating in air. Observation stable and satisfactory at this point. 2 times 12 feeds were tolerated and increased to 75 ml per kilogram. Blood taken for SBR and blood glucose. What's SBR? Lucy replies, so bilirubin jaundice level. Mr. Myers: at 10:30, SBR 52. Not below line by 50, so phototherapy continued. Blood sugar 3.9, 1 small posset at 11 o'clock. At 12:15 noted that his stomach was a little distended and his work of breathing was increased. Was then sent for my break and SN redacted. Is that nurse B? She replies, yes, she's referred to as redacted in the notes. Mr. Myers did the 12:30 feed and found temp raised and had an aspirate of 5 ml. Stomach acid with partly digested milk. This was discarded and feed given. Temp reverted to normal and baby settled. At next feed, the aspirate was 1.5 ml and bile stained. Shown to registrar and baby put nil by mouth. Nasogastric tube on free drainage. Pausing there. What indicator is it of a baby's progress if a baby is put nil by mouth in these circumstances? She replies, that's a decline. Mr. Myers: right. 10% dextrose commenced at 75 ml per kilogram. IV antibiotics given at 1500, this says. At 1600, baby went apneic and had a profound brady and DSAT. Full resus commenced at 1602. See medical notes for resus details, and EMAR for drugs given. Care handed over to senior nurse L. Letby. So that's care handed across to you. She replies, yes, of child M. Yes, of child M. Just starting at that point first. Why would care have been handed over to you in that situation? She replies, at that moment he was needing intensive care, and Mary Griffith was not trained in intensive care. Mr. Myers, right. A time was given there for the administration of antibiotics. You might remember it said 1500. In fact, can we be a bit more accurate than that? And I'd be grateful if we could put up tile 135 on the child M sequence. Looking at this generated document, what's it for, Miss Letby? She replies, this is referring to benzylpenicillin, an antibiotic. If we scroll down to see the entry for the time this is given, the relevant one moment please. Can you see where the cursor is, Miss Letby? She replies, yes. What time do we have there, in fact, for the provision of antibiotics for child M? 1545. That's at 1545. There isn't one, in fact, here for 1500, but 1545. Who's involved in giving antibiotics to child M at that time? She replies, myself and Mary Griffith. Is that actually filed? The entry made for those antibiotics at 1545? Yes. If antibiotics are given, is something else done at the time so far as the line is concerned? She replies, the line would be flushed after this with sodium chloride. Mr. Myers. Can we look at tile 137 with regard to that, please? We can stop at that point, it's clear from this. This simply summarises what we have behind this, but it's got medication, sodium chloride, 1545. Who delivered that? Again, me and Mary Griffith. That's something that follows the penicillin, is it? She replies, that's standard practice, yes. So that's in fact the timing we have for that. She replies, yes. Now, just pausing there and keeping track of everything that's taking place. After that had been done, do you recall where you were and what you were doing leading up to the time that child M collapsed? She replies, yes, child L was requiring 12.5% dextrose to maintain his blood sugars, and that is something that has to be made up by nursing staff, and that's something that Mary and I were doing at the workbench in nursery 1. Let's pause there then, return to child L and see what's happening with child L. Can we put up tile 10 please, Mr. Murphy? We'll go into that. This is the one that we were looking at in paper, ladies and gentlemen. Following through with child L, we'd seen the first bag hung on April 8th. We dealt with the second bag hung at 12 o'clock on April 9th. In fact, as we continue down, what happens at 1540? She replies, at 1540, child L receives a bolus of dextrose, so he receives 4.5 ml by myself and Mary Griffith. That would be in response to a low blood sugar. Mr. Myers, right, so that is a bolus, not a new bag. No, that's a bolus. That's a bolus at 1535. What else happens at 1535 if you look at the next line down? She replies, at 1535, both the bolus and the 12.5% is prescribed. So the bolus is the first at 1535. She replies, it's prescribed at 1535, given at 1540. Right, below that, the next line, the next to last line, we have 1535, 12.5% dextrose. What's that going to be? She replies, so that would be a solution that is made up by nursing staff. Why was that being given? She replies, in response to ongoing low blood sugars. So that's an increase in concentration of the dextrose. She replies, yes, that's the next step up in treatment. If we go across to the right, can you tell us when the bag was actually hung? She replies 1630. And did you take part in hanging that bag? No. Do you know who did hang that bag? She replies, yes, it was Belinda Simcock and Ashley Hudson. Who was it that initially had started to prepare a bag for child M? Myself and Mary. You told us when talking about, for child L, when talking about child M, that you had been involved in preparing a bag at the time of the collapse of child M. Yes. So, just having seen where we get to this, of course, the bag is being prepared for child L. Talk us through, if you would, what happens after that prescription has been made. The antibiotics, as we've seen at 1645, 1545, have been given to child M. Please pick it up with what happens with regard to the bag for child L at that time. She replies, so at that point, to make up a bag, we need to have a sterile nurse, which was Mary Griffith at the time. And I was what we call the dirty nurse. So I'm assisting in passing her all of the equipment that's needed. To make up a 12.5% bag of dextrose, there is a pathway that we have to follow on the unit with certain calculations that we have to follow. It's quite a specific sort of prescription that you have to do and things you need to do to make 12.5%. Let's read that bit again. It's quite a specific sort of prescription that you have to do and things you need to do to make 12.5%. So that's what we were doing at the time. Mary was sterile and I was checking everything that Mary was doing and passing her equipment. Mr. Myers, that's something you say you'd have been doing between 15:45, which is the time the medication had been given to child M, and child M's deterioration at or about 1600. So let's just read that again. That's something you say you'd have been doing between 15:45, which is the time the medication had been given to child M, and child M's deterioration at or about 1600. Yes. What was the first you knew that there was a problem with child M at 1600? She replies, a monitor alarmed, which is common in nursery 1, but when I went over to child M, he was clearly struggling. When you say clearly struggling, can you describe for us what you mean he wasn't breathing? Wasn't breathing, she replies, and his alarm was going off. I can't recall the values, but he was having a bradycardia and desaturation. Do you remember who else was in the nursery at that time? She replies, definitely Mary Griffith, and I think Belinda Williamson was there as well. We've seen reference to the parents of GT, who were asked to leave, yes. So, had they been there before then? She replies, they were there, and I recall asking them to leave to give us some privacy. Mr. Myers, can you describe how events went on from that point in Nursery 1, as well as you can remember? She replies, so I began initiating Neopuff straight away with child M. But due to where he was located in the nursery, the Neopuff tubing wouldn't reach that far to him, and I recall it falling on the floor, and I had to ask somebody to go and get me a new mask. And from then, we were able to reposition child M into a better space, so we had more room to move. Mr. Myers, what happened so far as child L and that next bag of 12.5% dextrose was concerned? She replies, Mary and I abandoned what we were doing for child L, went to care for child M, and Belinda and Ashley took over making up the bag. That's Ashley Hudson, yes. Do you know who did what, so far as they're concerned, with regard to that bag? No. Were you paying particular attention to what they were doing with that bag? She replies, no, so at the time we abandoned doing that, and our focus was on child M. Right, stop there for a second. Leslie is waiting for an engagement ring.
Oh my God!
Right then, let's continue onwards. We're on to page 64 now. Getting there. Slowly but surely. I'm on the second cup of green tea. So let's have a little sip of that before we get underway. Okay. Let's do this. Right, Mr. Myers. As a matter of procedure then, if you're asked to take over preparing something like a dextrose bag for a patient and take it over from another nurse, how do you go about doing that? She replies, you would start the procedure from the beginning because you can't be sure where the previous people got to or sign against something that somebody else has made up. You have to sign against it eventually, don't you? She replies, yes. So if you have to sign against it, she replies, you need to know exactly what is in there and what's been done. What's the only way of knowing exactly what's been done and what's in there? She replies, if you're there through the whole process. So is there anything unusual about stopping and starting with a new bag and making a new bag up if you take over from somebody else? She replies, no, I'd expect that is standard practice, that you would then start again. That was dealt with by Belinda Simcock and Ashley Hudson, yes, the next bag. And that's what we had on T10 at 16:30, is that correct? Yes. As it happens, from the evidence of Professor Hindmarsh and what we saw on the chart, after that bag was hung, the glucose values remained low. Yes. Do you know why that is? She replies, no. Did you do anything that interfered with that bag, or with child L, which accounts for low blood glucose readings? Did you do anything that interfered with that bag, or with child L, which accounts for low blood glucose readings? She replies, no. Or high insulin? No. The bag that you had been preparing, where had that come from? She replies, from the cupboard in nursery 1. Whatever bag anyone was to use on the unit is going to be able... does that even make sense? Whatever bag anyone was to use on the unit of it is going to be made up with dextrose like this. Where would that come from? She replies, that same cupboard. What about other babies on the unit, not just child L? For any baby, it would need to come from that cupboard. Mr. Myers, if we stay with child L for a moment and tile 10, that's up on the screen, can you tell us what the next entry relates to? The final one on this infusion therapy sheet. She replies, yes, that's referring to a 12.5% dextrose bag being commenced at 1905. Mr. Myers, on which day? On the 9th, I think that says. So is that another bag? She replies, from what you see there, or a change in the rate, can you tell? She replies, I think it's a change in rate. I'd have to double check it against the IV chart, but I think it's a change of rate because we've gone from 7.2 mil to 7.3. Mr. Myers, thank you. Moving to child M then, you've described the support that was being given to him. Do you recall who else became involved in the resuscitation that followed? She replies, yes, nurse B. And I remember Dr. J-Ram came. I think there were other doctors as well, but I couldn't recall them specifically. Mr. Myers, did you notice any particular discoloration to child M's skin during the course of this? No, I didn't. Did anyone bring to your attention any question of any discoloration at this time? Lucy replies, no. Mr. Myers, what time would your shift end conventionally in this situation? She replies, 2000. And do you recall whether you left the unit round about then or any later? She replies, it was later leaving. I had a lot of documentation to complete. How many babies had you been looking after? She replies, so I'd had the 2 babies that I had already been looking after in the day shift and then child M as well. Mr. Myers, let's just look again at the time of your note at tile 152, please. Sorry, look at your note at tile 152. Let's go into that, please. If we just look at the top entry, what does this tell us about the time that you wrote the note? She replies, the note was started at 21:14. What time do you finish it? 21:22. We can see it begins by saying, care taken over by myself during resuscitation. Drugs given by myself and SN Griffiths. Yes. And it sets out what happened with child M. But that note is completed sometime after your shift had formally concluded. She replies, yes, so at the time, clinical needs come before documentation. So once I'd handed over to the nurse that was coming onto the night shift, I would then be free to write my notes. Mr. Myers, just to be clear, when you say clinical needs come before documentation, what do you mean? She replies, your actual care for the baby, so practical interventions with the baby or medications. How would you remember details of what had happened when you come to write this note? She replies, it's common practice that we would make notes throughout the shift, either on the back of our handover sheets or on any piece of paper or a paper towel that might be around at the time of an emergency. Mr. Myers, could we look at the prosecution images at page 26 and 27, please? These pieces of paper come from the Morrison's bag, which is one of the items that was recovered by the police when they searched your property, Miss Letby, in 2018. She replies, yes. We have notes there, and we have notes at page 27, please. Have a look at that. These relate to procedures with child M in the course of resuscitation. First of all, just explain to us why these would be written on paper towels or pieces of paper. She replies, that's common practice. So it's not just you that does that? No. How do these come from you writing them down in the course of events on the unit to being at your house? She replies, so the paper or the notes are kept within my pocket in my uniform, and they have come home with me with the uniform. What did you do once they came home? She replies, I can't recall specifically with this sheet. Did you have any other use for them? No. If we go back to page 26, please. What's the item that we see on the left-hand side of the page as we're looking at it? She replies, that's the printout of a blood gas result. Where would that come from in the first place? She replies, that would have come from the machine on the unit. Did you use the machine? At this time? During the course of what happened with child M? She replies, yes. This is going to be very interesting as we move forward, so keep this in mind. Why would you have that item at your home? Can you help us with that? She replies, it's come back with me from work in my uniform. Once you've got the printout from the machine, bearing in mind what she's saying here, that she used the machine, she got the printout from the blood gas machine. Once you've got the printout from the machine, what would you have done with it in real time on the unit? What would you have done with it? She replies, I would have put it in my pocket and then taken it to the cot side to then write up on the charts that we've seen, the handwritten charts. Mr. Myers, the question that arises is why it doesn't just go in the bin after that. Why doesn't it? She replies, that's an error on my part. Mr. Myers, we know from the evidence that there's various pieces of paper, predominantly handover sheets, yes, from a variety of children or babies that are found at your house, aren't there? Yes. Are they something you specifically kept? No. Did you have any use for them? No. Both twins were discharged home on the 3rd of May 2016. She replies, yes. Had you continued to care for them over the weeks that followed, the events we're focusing on at the beginning of April? She replies, yes, quite frequently. Let's have a look. Could we put up, please, and these aren't on the sequence, but let's just see some examples. Exhibit page 17895. This is from the child L, sorry, it's just from the exhibits 17895. If we go across to the right-hand side, I'm not going to read them all, but just take a note. We can see at the top, first of all, can we just look at the above? Can we just look above that at how it's headed, Mr. Murphy? So we're quite clear. This is child L. If we scroll down on the right-hand side, just below that one in fact, what does this relate to, this note? She replies, this is referencing a communication that I've had with the parents on the 16th of April. The note is made at 12:34. Why would you be the person making notes on child L's records at this time? She replies, I'm the designated nurse for child L. Mr. Myers, can we go please to page, and the date for that is the 16th of April. She replies, that's right. Can we go to page 17898 next, please? It's just the dates I'm interested in. Can we, and it says inaudible, Mr. Murphy, in case anyone wants to look at it, but it's the dates again, child L. Who's looking after child L on the 17th of April? She replies, that's myself. A note at 12:15 and other notes in relation to his care that day? She replies, yes. Can we go to page 17918, please? Just have a look at that entry, again for child L. Just enlarge the large note. What day are you dealing with here? She replies, this is April 24th. Are you again the designated nurse? Yes, for child L. She replies, yes. If we pause there, 25th of April, Miss Letby, 1628, 1827, 1631, notes for child L by you. Why would you be making notes for child L on the 25th of April at those times? Lucy Letby, I'm his designated nurse. Yes, so we've got their examples looking after him on the 16th, 17th, 24th and 25th of April. Lucy replies, yes. Any adverse incidents with child L? No. Or child M? No. They had been on the unit from the time we're looking at the beginning of April up to their discharge on May 5th. Lucy replies, yes, I believe I was on the day that they were discharged. Right. How were you in your efforts to look after them over that period? She replies, I did my best for them. Can we just look at a couple of final messages from child M's sequence? Tile 421, please, Mr. Murphy. This is from you to nurse E, 10:33 on April 24th, which is one of the dates we were looking at where you're caring for child L. It says, quote, good thanks, I've got child D, child M and child L. You okay? And then please, tile 422 that follows that, you to nurse E, 15:53, should be nice tomorrow, babies L and M all bottles, O going, redacted all bottles, baby D demand. When you say it should be nice tomorrow, what is it that's making you feel it should be nice? She replies, because the babies that I'm referring to there were all progressing well. Is that something you wanted and not needing a high level of care? Is that something that you wanted to happen? She replied, absolutely. Did you want to hurt them? Did you want them to be hurt? No. Mr. Myers, we'll move on from child L and M in April 2016 next to child N in June 2016. Right, so we're finished with that. Right, okay, let's change the banners. And also the background. Bear with me. Just pop that on there for a second. Okay. Just pop this on here. Okay, cross-examination. Okay, that's fine. Right, let's catch up with the chat very briefly. Right, let's see who's still here. Totem Crow. Welcome to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. Glad you could be here. And as I say, next we'll be taking a look at a cross-examination of both the twins, child L and child M. Right, let's just scroll back here very briefly. Right, so we'll start playing this now. And again, thank you so much to Chrissy McCall for your gifted membership earlier, to Katya, who has now become a member, Rachel Barker, and also to Jane for the £4.99 super sticker. If you wish to support the channel, you can find out how to do that down in the video description box below. Now, let's move on to the cross-examination. I'll jump in the chat maybe every sort of 5 or 10 minutes just to catch up with what you're saying and any questions that you might have. And as I say, this is my narration of Lucy Letby's cross-examination for both the twins, child L and child M. Right, I'm going to move on to child L and see where the parallels are between what happened to him and what we've just established happened to child F. Okay? Okay. I'd like to start, as I tend to, with your defence statement. This is paragraph 136 onwards. You begin by saying that you did nothing to harm either child L or child M. After the twins had been born on April 8th, child L and child M were put into nursery 1. Amy Davies and I took them to the nursery and we looked after them on their first day. I looked after child L and Amy looked after child M. Then at 138, you say that child M wasn't in a proper space. At 139, child L had low blood glucose levels. There was a conversation with Dr. Bomick about why we were starting child L on fluid straight away rather than doing a feed. Normally, if the sugars are low, you feed a baby and move on to fluids if they remain low. Starting with fluids is against that policy, and it means a line is put in when it may not be necessary. Once Dr. Bomick explained why this was the reasonable course to take, we proceeded as she instructed us. And this is what? Is this the hyperglycemic pathway? Is that a reference to that? Yes. And this is an example, isn't it, of evidence that we've heard, that you were more than willing to challenge doctors if you thought they weren't doing the right thing. Yes, when they've deviated from a policy. Yes. Yes. We put the bag up at 11 a.m. on April 8th, and the infusion started at midday. I wasn't due to be working on April 9th, and I was asked to do the extra shift because the unit was so busy and we needed to get the skill mix right. We were exceptionally busy. I think I may have had 3 babies to look after. As a matter of fact, as we will see, you had 2. Yes. Is that right? Paragraph 142. From the medical notes, the second bag of 10% dextrose was put up for child L at midday on April 9th. I did this with Mary Griffith. As the blood sugar levels remained low, a bolus was signed for and provided by Mary and me at 15:40. And just to put that into chronological context, that's shortly before child M collapsed, isn't it? Yes. I cannot be sure precisely who administered the bolus. A new bag of 12.5% dextrose was signed for and given by Belinda Simcock and Ashley Hudson at 16:30. At 1900, a new bag was signed for and given by Belinda Simcock and Mary Griffith. Yes. Then at 143, child M collapsed as Mary and I were making up fluids for child L. His alarm went off, so we went over to him and he was apneic. When I look back, I'm not sure if he wasn't breathing or whether he had had a desaturation. You then talk about child M, so I'm going to skate over that for now because we're concentrating on child L. And to 150, please. I did not administer insulin to child L. I don't understand why child L's insulin test results were at the level they were. Also, I don't understand how the results can have been so abnormal, and yet there was no immediate investigation into this. Therefore, I am unable to accept the accuracy of these tests. Do you now accept the accuracy of the tests? Yes. If insulin entered child L via one or more of the bags that were used, I am not responsible for that. Okay? Yes. So that's what you say in the defense statement. Say for the correction in relation to your acceptance of the test results. Is there anything else in that information that is now on review incorrect? No, I don't think so. No. Right. So I just want to put child L into a bit of context very briefly. Born on April 8th, 2016. Is that right? Yes. As you said in the defense statement, you and Amy looked after 1 twin each. Yes. You had child L. Yes. Amy Davies is a band 6, isn't she? That's right. You identified straight away that the hyperglycemic pathway was not being followed. Yes. And I'm going to suggest to you that that was one of the reasons why you decided to attack child L. No. A departure from the pathway has nothing to do with somebody putting insulin into dextrose, though, does it? No. You told us, I think, that the dextrose bags are stored in nursery 1. Yes. The insulin in the locked fridge in the room where the locked fridge is. Yes. But the fact that they're stored in different places doesn't help us, does it? Because somebody put insulin into the dextrose. Well, I can't answer that. Well, do you accept from the evidence that somebody put insulin into the dextrose? Yes. And do you accept that there is no legitimate reason for putting insulin into dextrose? Yes. That it is highly dangerous? Yes. And that the results of the blood test prove that somebody put insulin into child L's dextrose? Yes. I want to see if you accept any of these propositions. There was insulin in at least one bag of dextrose that was attached to child L. I'm not sure without looking. Well, at least one. We'll come to the precise number later perhaps, but given that you have just accepted there was, well, do you accept it was in a bag of dextrose at any point? Yes, if that's the evidence. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Do you accept that the first time it was done was sometime between midnight and 9:30 a.m. on April 9th? I don't think I can answer that. I'm just reliant on the expert opinion. I don't know. April 8th, 2016 was a long day, so far as you were concerned. Yes. We can see the blood sugar reading in the third column between 10:58 and midnight, can't we? Yes. And we can see the gradual, if you go to column 5, the dextrose rates don't change, or other event column, we can see a gradual decrease in the amount of dextrose being given to child L. Yes. And a gradual increase, albeit with some anomalies along the way, in the blood sugar reading. Yes. It's not a linear progression, it's not a straight line, but we go from 1.9 at the beginning of the day at 10:58 to 3.6 at the end of the day. Yes. Do you remember Professor Hindmarsh saying of the reading at 2400 hours at midnight, I'm quoting him now, one could relax seeing that evolve. In other words, the progression in the blood sugar. Yes, that's normal levels. Yes, exactly. And on this particular night shift of the 8th into the 9th, albeit she was a bank nurse so far as the Countess of Chester was concerned, the nurse was Tracy Jones. Yes, who we heard is a band 8A. Yes, she is, yes. That's a very, very senior nurse, isn't it? Yes. Yes. We can see by looking at the chart that you have there that that was the final blood sugar measurement taken until 1000 hours the following morning. Yes. And this is where we come back to a point that we've just dealt with in the context of child F about the half-life of insulin. Do you remember the 25-minute point? Yes. It's that point that led Professor Hindmarsh to say that by 9:30 on the morning of April 9th, somebody had put insulin into that dextrose bag. Okay. Do you accept that as a proposition, first of all? Yes, if that's what he said. Yes. I'd like to look at who was where and who was doing what at about 9:30, okay, that morning? Yes. The first point then. Do you remember me suggesting to you that this was a targeted attack against child L? Yes. Just so you understand, the reason I am suggesting it is a targeted attack is that the same bag was hanging from midday on the 8th to midday on the 9th. Do you see that in the table? Yes. It didn't have insulin at the beginning on the 8th. No. But it had insulin in it on the 9th. Yes. Yes. So it follows, doesn't it, from that the insulin was put into the bag whilst it was hanging, doesn't it? I don't know. Well, let's just take a step back. We've dealt with the readings on April 8th, yes? Yes. They show there was a naturally resolving hypoglycemia that was resolved by the administration of the dextrose. Yes. So it had resolved by midnight. Yes. But then there was an exceptionally low and series of low blood sugar readings from 1000 hours on the 9th. Yes. It was the same bag that was connected to child L from midday to midday. So it follows, doesn't it, that somebody has put insulin into the bag whilst it is hanging. If that's what the experts suggest, yes. Well, it is what the experts suggest. Okay. Therefore it follows, doesn't it, that it is a targeted attack. The victim has been selected. Well, I can't answer that. All right. Somebody has injected insulin into a bag that is connected to a specific child. Yes, if that's the evidence. Yes. Yes. Well, it is the evidence, just as child F got, on one view of the evidence, 2 separate bags that were contaminated with insulin. TPN bags, in his case. Yes. So let's look at the population distribution for this shift, first of all, please. If we go to, it's page 2 of 12 in a neonatal review, which shows the same information that we have at tile 88 on the screen. Okay? Yes. This shows 4 babies in nursery 1. Yes. Child L and M being cared for by your friend Mary Griffith. Yes. You with GT and TSB. Yes. Nursery 2, 4 more children, 3 with Ashley Hudson, 1 with Nurse B. Yes. Belinda Simcock with 3 in Nursery 3. Yes. And then Angela McShane with 3 in Nursery 4, and Nurse B with the 4th baby in Nursery 4. Yes. So it follows, doesn't it, that the only common nursing staff, the only nursing staff in common between the shift on which child F received insulin and the shift on which child L was to receive insulin were you and Belinda Simcock. Yes. Now, bearing in mind the question or the issue identified by Professor Hindmarsh as to the timing at which the insulin was put in, overnight, under the care of Tracy Jones, child L had done very well, hadn't he? Yes. If we go to the jury bundle number 2, please, there at page 17948, we have the dextrose prescriptions, don't we? Showing Dr. Bomick's several attempts to resolve the calculation on April 8th, and also showing the replacement of the original bag at what you have entered as 12:10 hours. Yes. Albeit I think in answer to your own counsel, you said that actually reads 1200 hours. Is that right? I read it to be that, yes. You read it to be 1200? Yes. All right. Moving on in that document, we have the observation chart at 17978. Is that right? Yes. We have the lab blood results at 17997 with Dr. Yuko's manuscript additions at the back of the form at 17998. Then at 18000 we have the blood gas. Then following that we have the printouts, 2 printouts from the lab, yes, about which we heard quite a lot of evidence. Yes. I'm going to suggest that you put insulin into child L's dextrose bag at about 9:30 or just before 9:30 on April 9th. Okay? Okay. So if we just keep in mind who is where, if we could keep that on the screen, please, Mr. Murphy, and can we go to page 3 of the neonatal review? This shows events that were going on in the unit from the beginning of the shift, doesn't it? Yes. And we can see that child L's entries are in that sort of salmon pink type shading. Yes. And that child M's are in the yellow shading, which is used in other cases for the child in question. Yes. I just want to concentrate on you and Mary Griffith, as you were the 2 nurses that were in nursery 1 with child L and child M. Okay? Yes. From 9 o'clock, we see an entry for you in relation to the child GT, who is one of the children in nursery 1, don't we? Yes. What I'm directing your attention to at the moment is what you were up to between 9 and 9:30. All right? Okay. So starting with tile 21 then, we see an entry made by Mary Griffith on child L's neonatal fluid balance chart, don't we? Yes. And at the same time, you are giving a feed to the child GT. Yes. At the same time as you are giving the feed, you appear to be co-signing medication for the patient AW. Yes. The child AW is one of the children in nursery 2 who was being looked after by Ashley Hudson. Yes. Then in the couple of minutes after that, there's some more medication you are co-signing for AW. Yes. And then between lines 29 and 32 inclusive, 4 entries for the child GT, who was one of your 2 children in nursery 1. Yes. Which you are signing and co-signing with Mary Griffith. Yes. Mary Griffith then left the room, didn't she? As we can see from lines 34 down to 39. I can't say that she left the room. Medications are predominantly drawn up in nursery 1. I couldn't say where this happened. Well, this is Mary Griffith co-signing with a... Who is Angela McShane? She's a nursery nurse. Are nursery nurses allowed to give medications to children? Yes, oral medications. oral medications? Yes. These are prescribed medications, aren't they? Yes. All signed for between 9.25 and 9.29. Yes. And for the free children, yes, ML, NB, and MB. Yes. And that was the opportunity that you took to poison child L, wasn't it? No. Are you suggesting that staffing levels caused or contributed to somebody putting insulin into the dextrose bag or bags for child L? No, I don't know how the insulin got there. Well, whoever did it deliberately, didn't they? If it happened on the unit, yes. Yes, well, we've already established it has to have happened on the unit, doesn't it? Because it happened sometime between midnight and about 9:30 in that bag that was connected to child L throughout that time. Yes, so then when the cannula is replaced, yes. And that's why it's a targeted attack, isn't it? What do you say? Not by me, it wasn't. If it's not by you, it's by somebody else then, isn't it? Yes. Poisoning a child in the same way that child F was poisoned. Yes. With the same substance. Yes. And is the reality that unless there is more than one poisoner, it has to have been either you or Belinda Simcock? I can only answer for myself and say that I've never put insulin into any bags. It was never suggested to her that she did it, though, was it? I can't answer that. I don't know. We can put the neonatal review away if we go back to the table that Professor Hindmarsh dealt with in his evidence behind Divider 6 in Jury Bundle 1. You asked several questions on May 16th about this table. Do you remember? Yes. I think you started by suggesting that the entry at what you have interpreted for as being 1200 hours on April 9th might have been a rate change. But I think you then decided, and I don't mean that in any pejorative way, but you thought that actually that was a change of bag at midday. Yes. Just for the jury's benefit, you're looking at the prescription there, aren't you? Yes. Thank you. So there we see, it's the entry where I asked you just to confirm what you'd said earlier. You're saying it doesn't say 1210, it says 1200 hours. Is that right? I would read it as that, yes. 10 minutes either way in this circumstance probably doesn't make any difference. But this, in any event, shows a different bag. And I think we heard from several witnesses that the practice is to change a dextrose bag every 24 hours anyway. Yes. But the giving set doesn't change. Is that right? Dextrose is changed 24 hourly without fail. It's TPN that's 48 hourly. Well, you tell us. The changing of giving sets with dextrose. What's the policy? They would be changed. Every time? Yes, I don't... Sorry, I'm confused with what you're asking now. A dextrose bag, as I understand you to have told us, is changed every 24 hours. Yes. The bag is hooked up to a giving set. Yes. Connected to a giving set? Yes. Does the giving set have to be changed every time a bag of dextrose is changed? Not every time, no. No. Well, that actually was the proposition I was putting to you, but there we are, we got there. Sorry, I misunderstood. It's all right, it's not your fault. Despite the fact that the bag was changed, so looking at the table that Professor Hindmarsh took us through, despite the fact that the bag was changed at midday, 1200 hours, the insulin kept being administered to child L, didn't it? Yes. Yes, and we know that because if we look at page 2, we see the time at which the blood sample was received in the lab, being either 1826 or 1829. Yes. And that blood sample contained exogenous insulin, didn't it? I can't recall. Well, that was the evidence from the lab. Okay. So I'm going to suggest for your comment or your answer that not only was child L targeted on the first occasion whilst the bag was hanging, but he also got a second bag that had insulin in it. What do you say about that? I'd have to be guided by the evidence, the expert evidence. We have a third bag hung, don't we, at about 16:30 or thereabouts? Yes. So a third bag hung at 16:30 and the hypoglycemia continued. Yes. Fourth bag hung the following day when you were not working, on April 10th. It's a 15% bag at either 2:30 or 3 o'clock. Yes. And the hypoglycemia gradually resolved, didn't it? Yes. We end up, as we go from the 10th into the 11th, 2300 hours on the 11th, which is right to the end of page 3, with a resolved episode of hypoglycemia. Yes. And the reason for the hypoglycemia was that somebody had poisoned at least 2 glucose bags with insulin, isn't it? Yes. And that was you, wasn't it? No. Okay, let's just jump in here very briefly. All right, let's just catch up with a chat, shall we? Right, thank you to Athena with a £2 super sticker, and also Kaz49. Greatly appreciated. Let's catch up with the old chat box a second. My audio is low. Well, it can't be low. How can it be low? Is it low now, is it, my audio? I've got a moderator telling me your audio is low. But how can it be? I haven't changed anything. Is it low, is it? Don't worry, we've got mods. I've got Terence is still here. Don't you worry. It's fine. Yeah, don't worry. It's just Terence in it messing about. It is a bit. Right, hang on a minute. Is that any better? I've just moved it a bit closer. It's a bit quieter. It's weird, isn't it? I don't know why it changes. I don't really know why it went low for a bit. Right, okay. Right, okie dokie. Alright, let's just go back through the chat very briefly before we continue. And again, thank you to each and every one of you for watching this evening. It's always appreciated. I'm not too sure what we're going to do with tomorrow's stream, because I also want to look at that pair of twins that went missing in Scotland. I may actually take a look at that case tomorrow, but I'll keep you updated. Or I might actually save that for the members only stream, but I'll have a think about that and let you know. Killer Hills said, "No, it's mine. I turned it down." Who else we got here? Scarezilla. Welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. Did you ever talk about David Davis' speech? No. Why would I talk about that utter lunatic? No, I wouldn't waste my breath talking about David Dickie Davis. No, thank you. Terence Stamper. Yeah, I haven't really read all of the details regarding those missing twins. But I think they're part of triplets, actually. But yeah, I do plan on either covering that tomorrow evening or possibly, as I say, saving that for a members only live. He's the guy, isn't he, that turned up to Brexit negotiations when everyone was trying to work out, you know, what was best for the country, and he turned up without any paperwork, sitting at a table looking like a total dickhead. That's the bloke you're talking about, isn't it? David Davis, the one who like basically fucked up our country with Brexit negotiations. Yeah, I won't be talking about him very much, I don't think. I don't think he's worth my time, to be perfectly honest. Right, anyway, let's continue onwards. Right then, let's continue onwards, and I'll jump back in with you in about 5 or 10 minutes' time. On Monday, before the midday adjournment, we dealt with 2 cases, Child F and Child L. Is there anything that you said about any of those children that you, on reflection, wish to amend? No. And so far as the wider case is concerned, in other words, questions that I've been asking you since we started this exercise, is there anything that you wish to amend? No. Do you give that some thought at the end of each day, that issue? Yes. So it's not a criticism at all, but you reflect on the evidence you have given. As much as I can remember, yes. Yes. And you think about whether or not there's something that you have said, with hindsight, you might either wish to change or re-emphasize, or add to, or take away from? Yes. Yes. And each time I have asked you that question, you have confirmed that, in effect, there is nothing you wish to change. Yes. Thank you. Now, if we move on to the case relating to child M, please, who is named in count 16 on the indictment, I'd like to start, as I have done from time to time, with your defence statement. All right? The jury now have a typed copy of the statement. The part I'd like to ask you about starts at paragraph 137, which in the jury's copy is page 17. I've dealt with parts of this already because, as we see from the document, this section of it concerns both brothers, child L and child M. All right? Yes. So on Monday, we dealt with the parts that refer simply to child L. Yes. And we will now turn to child M. At paragraph 137, you say that after the twins were born on April 8th, they were put into nursery 1, that you and Amy Davies took them there and you looked after them on their first day. You had looked after child L and Amy had looked after child M. Yes. Then you say, I used the Neopuff that was on the wall, but because of how child M had been fitted into the nursery, it wouldn't reach the cot and the mask pulled off. Someone brought me a new Neopuff mask. Yes. So paragraph 145. We asked Belinda Simcock and Ashley Hudson to do the bag for child L while we dealt with child M. So the bag in that context, of course, is the more concentrated dextrose that Mary Griffith had started to put together. Yes. And then you say, we put a crash call out, Nurse B came and tried to turn the incubator round to get child M onto a proper monitor. Dr. J-Ram then came in and probably other doctors. Eventually, we moved child M to the intensive care side of the nursery because we needed a ventilator. You then say at 147, I didn't notice any change in skin colour in child M, although I have not dealt with many sick Asian babies, so I may not have been accustomed to the changes in skin colour. However, no one mentioned any changes in skin colour at the time. You then say at 148 you took care of child M once he came off the ventilator. He'd been given medication prior to his collapse. I can't recall if it was me or Mary Griffith who did this. And you then turn back in the document to child L at 150 and 151. Yes. Then paragraph 152. Sometimes when we do a resuscitation, we write notes on whatever is available. This would sometimes be a paper towel. That is what happened with child M. I wrote notes on the paper towel which then remained in my pocket and ended up at home with me. I just want to understand what you're saying. I've asked you some questions about this, and I will return to it, but I just want to understand what it is you're actually saying in the document there. Are you saying in the document that once you had written notes on the paper towel, it went into your pocket, and that is where it remained until it got home? I'm saying that I wrote notes on the paper towel, yes, and at the end of the day it came home with me in my pocket. And where had it been in between? Well, it would have been used during the shift to write up notes. All right, we'll come back to that. At paragraph 153, a number of my diary entries were written retrospectively. For example, twins resus. Matters like this were written after I'd been removed from the unit. I was documenting matters that I believed might be significant. LD stands for long day. And that's how you deal with the case of child M in this document. Yes. Was there anything that was particularly memorable about child M so far as you were concerned? The delivery of the twins stood out in my mind because that was the first delivery I'd been to where I was the allocated nurse for a baby by myself. So yes, as a pair of twins, yes, they stood out in my mind. Yes. I want to see whether you agree with a number of propositions. All right. First, that child M was born in good condition. Yes. But within a few hours, his observations were being taken every 2 hours, and he was breathing for himself in air. Yes, if that's... Obviously, I can't see the chart now, but yes. Okay, well, if you want to look at the chart, please don't let me rush you beyond it if you want to. They're all behind divider 16 in that bundle that you have in front of you. I'm doing my best to reflect accurately the evidence that's been given, but it may be from time to time that I can make a mistake. So if you want to check anything, you say so, all right? Okay. But do you agree with those propositions? Could you repeat the last one? Yes. Observations every 2 hours, breathing for himself in air. That's within a few hours of his birth. Yes. He was not an intensive care baby, was he? No, I don't believe he was at this time. No. No. Is it your case that the staffing levels generally caused or contributed to Child M's collapse? I don't know what caused Child M's collapse, but the unit was very stretched that day with staffing. Yes. Yes, but you will understand, I'm sure, that it has been suggested on your behalf from time to time, and you gave evidence in answer to questions from your own counsel from time to time, that may have been taken as suggesting that there is a connection between staffing levels and collapses, all right? And I hope you understand that what I'm trying to do is to look at each case individually and see whether in fact there is a connection on your evidence, okay? So putting to one side for a second the fact that you have told us that you don't know what the cause of Child M's collapse was, are you suggesting that there is a positive association between staffing levels and his collapse? I think that's a potential, yes. Well, a potential... What is the potential connection? Because I don't know exactly what happened to Child M, but I know we were very stretched that day in providing all of the needs on the babies on that unit to make sure that they were all cared for. It was very stretched for every child, and Child M wasn't in the correct space either. Are you pointing to a positive event which, had staffing levels been different, would have been dealt with differently? Potentially, yes. If Child M had been in a proper space and we hadn't been as stretched with staff, maybe things would have been acted on quicker. I don't know. What difference would the space have made? He wasn't on a correct monitor. He was just in a corner space, which isn't ideal. We don't usually have babies in that space. Well, we'll come to the population distribution in a moment. But you are postulating the possibility, are you, that had he been on a Philips monitor, there may have been an earlier alarm than in fact there was? Potentially, yes. Right. That doesn't have anything to do with staffing levels, though, does it? No. That's to do with the monitor. Yes. So at the risk of repeating myself, just going back to the staffing levels, what are you suggesting is the connection? Again, I don't know what happened to Child M, but as nursing and medical staff, we were very stretched that day. Sorry? What was I saying, sorry? I'm looking to give you an opportunity, really, of telling the jury what you are suggesting is the connection between staffing levels and Child M's collapse. As I say, I don't know what happened to Child M, but the unit was very busy that day. Staffing wasn't at a great level. The doctors were very busy, as were the nurses. Potentially babies on the unit at that time didn't have such close monitoring, as maybe they would have done if there'd been more staff or less babies. Are you suggesting that anybody's mistake contributed in any way to Child M's collapse? I don't know what caused Child M's collapse. So is the answer no? Yes. Are you suggesting that medical or nursing competence made a contribution? Again, that's hard to answer when I don't know exactly what happened to Child M. I know he had a few issues earlier on in the day. Maybe that could have been dealt with differently. I don't know. Right, well, when we get to them, if you are suggesting that things should have been dealt with differently, will you say so, please? Yes. And tell us what the difference could or should have been. Yes? Thank you. Now, I'm sure you will remember that Dr. J-Ram told us of discoloration that he saw on Child M at the time of his collapse. Yes. I want to put to you his description and ask whether you disagree with what he says. Okay? Okay. What he said was this. It was on the 22nd of February, if anybody wants to check. Because Child M was darker skinned, it was more obvious. He was generally pale, which one would expect in a cardiorespiratory arrest. There were patches of very bright pink, or certainly more obviously pink because it was on a darker skinned background on his torso that flitted around. It would appear and disappear, and then other ones would appear and disappear. I noticed them on his abdomen because that's the most obvious bit of his body that you could see, because the rest of his body had people covering his chest doing CPR. I noted them sort of when I got there during the start of the resuscitation. I can't comment on how long they continued to be there. Once circulation was restored and his heart rate came above 100, they vanished. And he said he had never seen that type of a discoloration before child A. Okay? Yes. Do you agree with his description? I did not see anything like that, no. Did the lighting in nursery 1 make it difficult to see? No. Because you've told us, haven't you, that the lighting in nursery 1 is bright? Yes. This was a daytime collapse? Yes. And so the lighting would have been on full, wouldn't it? It wouldn't have been on full, no, because no nursery light is on full unless you're actually doing a procedure. But yes, it would have had a fair level of lighting, yes. Is resuscitation a procedure? Yes, the lights would have been turned up then. Yes, sorry, I thought you meant during the day. I'm talking about when Dr. J-Ram speaks of having seen what I've just recounted to you. Yes. Do you remember what you said to the police about the lighting in this particular case? Yes, that it was poor where the space that child M was. If we just go to your interview, it's the first of the child M interviews. Do you have an independent memory of saying this, or have you been reading your interviews to see what you said before I ask you questions about it? No, I have a direct memory of that event and needing to move child M into a different space. Right at the bottom of the page, you're asked a question. Do you know why he desaturated? And you replied, no. Then you were asked the question, so when you attended him, there was nothing obvious that had caused this desaturation. You replied, not that I remembered, no. And then a different officer says, any more questions? And you give a reply, don't you? Would you just read your reply, please? I do remember that his colour was a little bit harder to assess with him being an Asian baby, and also he was in a corner space where there's poorer lighting. So were you suggesting to the police in this interview that the poor quality of the lighting during the daytime in nursery 1 may have been a reason why you didn't see a change in coloration? Yes, so at the time that child M collapsed, the nursery was not in full brightness, so when I went over to child M, he was in a darker corner of the nursery. But a much lighter corner than nursery 2. Yes. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? Yes. Yes. What am I going to say? That I was able to see child I. Yes, in the dark. Yes, well, not in complete darkness, but... So this time you're saying that although a nursery was in daytime, with the lighting on, the lighting wasn't good enough for you to have been able to see a change in colour. No, it was harder for me to assess because I was not used to caring for Asian babies, so the colour change, if any, was very difficult for me to see. I did not notice any colour change. I want to turn to the population layout, please, at tile 83. We can put the interviews away now, please. Here we can see that there were 4 children in nursery 1. Yes. How many spaces are there in nursery 1? 4. Why was it necessary to put child M in a corner space if there are 4 spaces and 4 children? The procedure is because we're an emergency unit. There always has to be 1 incubator free because obviously we don't know what might come through from delivery ward. So there is always a space set up that's available for any admissions. Okay, so is this a situation where, as you have told us, because child M was not an intensive care baby, he didn't actually need to be in nursery 1 at all? Yes, there was just no room on the outside nurseries. Yes. Yes. We can see the layout there, can't we? Yes. We see that you were responsible for GT and TSB. Yes. And that your friend Mary Griffith was responsible for the babies L and M. Yes. As you have told us, 4 children in nursery 2, 3 of whom being looked after by Ashley Hudson, 1 by nurse B. Yes. Nurse B had a second child in nursery 4, who was in there with 3 others being looked after by Angela McShane. And then Belinda Simcock had the 3 children in nursery 3. Yes. Was the capacity at the time 16? Yes. So making the allowance for the emergency provision of a single ITU space, You were running, in effect, at capacity. Yes. Do you remember describing Mary as quite a junior member of staff? Mary Griffith? Yes. How many years' experience did Mary have? I can't answer that, but Mary only did Band 5 roles intermittently. She was predominantly a nursery nurse on the unit and would sometimes go up to a Band 5 on days when we were short-staffed, so she wasn't predominantly a Band 5 at all times. Moving on to tile 88, please. Do you remember Dr. Yuko saw child M at 10:25 on the ward round? Yes. Did you have anything to do with child M at this stage? I couldn't answer that. I don't know. All right, let's look at what you were doing at the beginning of the shift, if we can. If we go to page 4 to deal with the time at which Dr. Yuko was looking at child M, the notes of which you have on the screen, we see blue typescript showing what you were up to at about this stage. Yes. Just turn back a page to page 3. We see you doing observations for GT, don't we, at 8:30. Yes. Some medications at 9:05 to 9:11 between lines 29 and 32. Yes. Also checking some medications for AW, who was in nursery 2, being looked after by Ashley Hudson. Yes. Then going to page 4, lines 44, 49, 58 and 66. Are you doing observations, feeding and making a note relating to the child TSB? Yes. Who was one of your 2 children in nursery 1? Yes. The child GT was, if this document is correct, which we believe it to be, very low maintenance. Would you agree? No. Let's look at how GT was occupying your time then. At line 22, so back to page 3, do we see you feeding GT? Yes. At 9 a.m. That's the first thing you did on the shift that's been recorded by you. Yes. Lines 29 to 32, the medications that we spoke of earlier. Yes. At about the same time, the next entry for GT is at midday, isn't it? Yes. You see, that's why I'm suggesting GT is low maintenance, so far as you are concerned. I disagree, because the baby at that time was in nursery 1. It had cannulation issues. She was recannulated during that shift. She would sometimes need suction. She had been transferred into nursery 1 because she was unwell. That's why she had been moved into nursery 1. She was initially in the special care nurseries. You've got an extraordinary memory for the detail of this child, haven't you? I was, because she was a very complex baby that was on the unit a very long time, yes. But no memory of child D? No. Who died in the same nursery that you were working in? Yes. Do you agree, just if we could put the doctor's note from 10:30 back up then, 10:25 I should say, that this examination of child M was unremarkable? Yes, I think he assessed the baby's L&M after the 2 other babies because they were more special care than the other 2, yes. You remember that as well? Yes, because I remember the baby GT needed a cannula replacing, and I do recall that with the doctor, and I remember the doctor coming to see TSB, who I was concerned about at the time. I'm not asking you to say it, but do you remember TSB's name as well? Yes. From 7 years ago? Yes. If we go to tile 98, please, we see there at 12:30 p.m. a note made by Nurse B. Can you see it? Yes. With her initials at the bottom referring to a nasogastric tube feed and the fact that she obtained an acidic aspirate. Yes. She said that child M was fine. Yes. Do you agree or disagree with her? Well, bile isn't a normal finding. Where is bile? So Nurse B has put partially digested stomach acid / bile, 1.5 bile stained. That's in Mary's entry at 2:30? Oh, sorry, is it not a continuation? No. Sorry, then, yes. Well, it's an easy mistake to make, but we'll move on to that because I was going to deal with that anyway. There we see, as you have already pointed out, Mary Griffith's recording of a 1.5ml bile-stained aspirate. Yes, apologies, I was reading it from Nurse B's writing. It's all right, there's no need to apologise. But you'll remember, I'm sure, that Mary said that Dr. Yuko put child M nil by mouth at that stage, and we can see that fact recorded, or at least the nil by mouth element of it, recorded just above, can't we? Yes. And the nasogastric tube was put onto free drainage. Okay. That was the evidence. What's the point of putting the NGT on free drainage? Bile is not a normal finding, and that should not be in the stomach, so the tube would go onto free drainage to ensure that anything that is in the stomach comes straight out and doesn't sit within the stomach, and that we can monitor what's coming out. At 15:30, so we're moving on now please to tile 127, a dextrose bag was started for child M by you and Mary Griffith. Yes. And there is nothing to suggest, is there, that there was any insulin in that bag? No. No. You see, I'm asking you this question because I suggested to you yesterday that child L, who was receiving insulin from a dextrose bag at this point, was targeted specifically. Okay? Okay. There's nothing in any of child M's findings to support the suggestion that he was receiving insulin, is there? No. No. At 15:30, we are now about half an hour or so before child M collapsed. Yes. Looking at Dr. Yuko's, is that Dr. Yuko's prescription? Do you know? Or writing? It looks like his. I couldn't comment, sorry. I think he said it was, but it may not matter. Do we see your signature above that of Mary Griffith? Yes. The rate and the time of the infusion being started, is that your writing as well? Yes. Can we rely on that time? Yes. Can you remember what Mary was doing at about this time, though? No. Was she taking blood for the lab for child L? I can't say without looking. Well, we've all seen the paperwork relating to the blood test for child L, haven't we? Yes. Do you remember the evidence that she gave? That the podding of the sample was interrupted by the emergency with child M? Yes. How long in the normal course of events would it take between the taking of a sample and the podding of a sample? That would be dependent on staffing on the unit, because it would require somebody to leave the unit to take the blood to be podded. If you had normal staffing, staff that could leave, it would be 5 or 10 minutes? Yes. There was another job going on, of course, at this same time as well, wasn't there? Do you remember? Are you talking about the 12.5%? I am. Yes. You do remember? Sorry? And you do remember? Making up the 12.5%? Yes. Yes. We've seen a video of the way it's done, haven't we? Yes. And one person, one of the two nurses involved, is the person who actually does the mechanical side of it. Yes. Is that right? That was Mary's function. Yes. What were you actually doing physically? Practically speaking, what did your role involve? So generally the role would involve opening up any equipment that Mary would need and dropping it onto the sterile field, and then watching everything that Mary does to ensure that the calculations are correct. And what does Mary do that actually has to be checked? Any volume that she's taken out of the bag, or it would involve using a dextrose file, which we would need to check. There's a calculation that's involved in making up 12.5%, so we would both be going through the protocol together and working out the calculations together. Yes. How long does that take? For 12.5%, it can take quite a while. It's an unusual thing to do, and there's quite a lot of processes to it. How long does it take? I couldn't tell you. I couldn't give you a definitive time. How many times have you done it? Not that many. Did you not know how to do it off the top of your head? No, I don't think any nurse would. We had to use the protocol that was on the unit. Where was that? Nursery 1. So right where you were? Yes. How long would that take to find? I don't think I can quantify that. Mary and I would have both needed to go through the policy against the prescription charts and then got all the equipment ready. I can't tell you how long it would take to read the policy and work out the calculations. Can't or won't? No, I think it's unrealistic to think that I'd be able to remember exactly how many minutes something took to do. All right. Around this time, though, you were also involved in giving medication to child M, weren't you? Yes. How long would it have taken Mary to scrub up to be the sterile nurse? A few minutes. If we go to tiles 135 through to 138, we see the prescription and updates that were being made to the computer relating to the giving of benzylpenicillin and sodium chloride to child M, don't we? Those are all computerized times, yes. So they're recorded by the machine when you put in the code. When we've both signed, yes. Yes. Plainly, Mary wouldn't have been sterile at that point if she's tapping in her code to the computer. No. Can we take it that it must have been after that, after 1545, that the process of making up the 12.5% dextrose started? Yes. And it was while Mary was getting sterile that you sabotaged child M, wasn't it? No. Do you remember what happened just before child M crashed? I recall that Mary and I were at the workbench. Do you remember what the mother of child L and M said happened in her agreed witness statement? Not from my memory now, no. About 10 minutes after we left the boys, a nurse called Yvonne came running up. She said I had to go back and took me down in a wheelchair. When we got there, one of the doctors was pressing child M's chest. Do you remember that bit of evidence? Yes. And so whatever happened to child M happened just after his mum and the family had left him. Do you remember them being there? I can't remember specifically. I know they had visited during the day and other parents for other babies were visiting. I don't recall the exact timings, no. So another case where the parents are there but leave and then the baby collapses. Yes, if that's accurate. Yes. And that was your opportunity to sabotage child M, wasn't it? No, I was with Mary. And this was another case, wasn't it, where air was going in and carbon dioxide was coming out of child M, but his saturations were dropping. Yes. Do you remember that? And do you remember that during the resuscitation, notes were being made, yes, by several of you, several nurses? I can't recall that specifically. I know that we were writing the drugs down, yes. You remember the paper towel, don't you? Yes, because it ended up under your bed. Yes. And do you remember the evidence of your friends, Nurse B and Mary Griffith, who said their writing is on the note? Yes. That's why I say several of you writing down. Oh, yes. And child M suddenly recovered, didn't he? Yes, remarkably. As quickly as he declined, he recovered. And whilst he was desperately unwell, he had a flitting pink rash on his body, didn't he? I did not see any rash, no. It was not discussed at the time either. If we go to tile 171, we come to the blood gas. You remember this one, don't you? Yes. If we click on it, we'll see Nurse B's writing at 1622, and we know that that information, or that data, replicates the printout that was found under your bed. Yes. Have you thought any more about how that printout got from what Nurse B says was the waste paper basket, or the sensitive waste, to a bag under your bed? No, but I know I've never taken anything out of the confidential waste bin. Well, putting the confidential waste to one side for a minute, how many blood gas records have you ever taken home? I can't put a specific number on it. I don't know. Is it a few? I don't know. Why would you take a blood gas record home? It's come home with the handover sheet. That's not an answer to the question. It is. It's got put in my pocket like a handover sheet does, and it's come home with me. Did Nurse B put it in your pocket? I don't know that. I don't know. Are you seriously suggesting that somebody else might have put it in your pocket? No, I'm saying I definitely did not take anything out of the confidential waste bin. Well, who put it in your pocket? Probably myself. Yes. It did not come from the confidential waste bin. Who took it out of your pocket? Myself. Who put it in the bag under your bed? Me. Why? Because I collect paper. But not bank statements. No. No. What's the difference from your point of view? What makes a blood gas record collectible, but a bank statement shreddable? Well, that's not in context. The handover and things came back with me and they were just put to one side and not thought of again. Dealing with a household bill is in the forefront of your mind. Handover sheets aren't. What's a household bill got to do with a bank statement? Sorry, I assume that's the same thing. A bank statement, a bill, it's things that are happening there and then. What do you mean by happening there and then? Well, a bank statement comes through, I pay a bill, I would shred the document. Straight away? Well, I can't tell you exactly when. Are you making this up as you're going along? No. What was the purpose of the towel that had the resus details written? What was the purpose of it? Yes. To keep an accurate record of what was happening during the resuscitation? Yes. And for whose benefit primarily was the accurate record? For the medical and nursing staff that would then need to document about the events? Yes. So as it happened in the context of this particular resuscitation, it was Dr. Yuko who needed the material, wasn't it? It would have been all of the doctors, so the drugs would have all been prescribed retrospectively, so it could have been any of the doctors, yes. Yes, but you know, don't you, that it was Dr. Yuko to whom the responsibility fell to make the meticulous record of this resuscitation. Okay. Well, you do know that, don't you? Yes, and Dr. Jaram also wrote some notes. He did. But it's Dr. Yuko who made the principal note, and I'm going to ask Mr. Murphy, please, to put up tile 149, which is one of the tiles that bears this data. Can we just scroll down, please? So, cardiorespiratory arrest, underlined double, pale plus plus plus. Then as we scroll down the page, please, there we see what I have just described as the meticulous record. Yes. Intervention, underlined, then in Dr. Yuko's distinctive handwriting, cardiac massage commenced by him 1602, adrenaline number 1 1605, number 2 1610, intubation 1610, adrenaline number 3 1612, number 4 1619, and so on. Yes. Number 5 at 1623 or 27, and the final, the sixth and final and apparently successful dose at 1630. Yes? Yes. We can show you the paper towel if you'd like to see it, but that is the data that's recorded on the paper towel, isn't it? Yes. Therefore it follows, doesn't it, that Dr. Yuko must have had the paper towel in his hand. At some point, yes, to write the notes. Yes. And if we scroll back up the note, please, we see that Dr. Yuko had the paper towel at 2025 when he made the note. Yes. So at the end of the shift, wherever this paper towel from the resuscitation had been, we can say, can't we, it was in the hand of Dr. Yuko at 2025. Yes. And you hung around, didn't you, to get your hands on it before you left? No, I stayed late that night to cover all of the work that still needed doing. What work was that? I had to hand over child M, and I had 2 other babies that I'd looked after in the daytime that I also had to hand over. I had to write the medical notes, the nursing notes, sorry, for child M. Child M was handed over at the normal time, wasn't he? Yes, but my documentation was not completed at that point. No, you're right about that. If we go to tile 251, remembering that Dr. Yuko is making his detailed note at 2025, we see what you were doing at 2114. This is your note, isn't it? Yes. So you'd waited an hour and a quarter after the end of your shift to make this note? No, I disagree. I was busy with other babies on the unit as well. I was not just sitting waiting to do this documentation. And you were hanging around to get your hand on the paper towel used by Dr. Yuko. No. And to go rooting in the bin for the printout put there by Nurse B. No, I've never rooted in the bin for anything. Because you sabotaged Child M by injecting him with air, didn't you? No, I did not. I'm going to move on. Okay. So that concludes the cross-examination. concerning the twins child L and child M. Let me just go through the chat, see if I've missed anything before we wrap it up for this evening. Oh, I did miss something, didn't I? Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, hang on. It's all right. Terence is asking me a question. It was said ages ago, Terence, a long, long time ago. But I just said, don't worry, Terence is here. There is a moderator here. But I was just, it was more out of hope, really, than expectation. But it does appear that you are still here, so it's all good. Excuse me. Right, let's just have a look here. Right, scroll back up. Just make sure I haven't missed anything. There's someone there. This Smitten Kitten. Thank you for joining us this evening. Mish, welcome to you. Thank you for joining us. Ms. Strangeway, many thanks for joining us this evening. As I say, tomorrow, excuse me, tomorrow we may continue with the Lucy Letby stuff, or I might take a look at that case regarding the two ladies that went missing in Aberdeen, I believe it was. I'm going to do a little bit more research on that tomorrow, but I'll let you know either way on the topic in terms of what tomorrow's live stream is going to be about. I'll let you know sort of around lunchtime, I'd imagine, when I put up the video for the live stream tomorrow night. But yeah, it will either be Lucy Letby continued, so it will be the case of child N, or we'll take a very in-depth look, hopefully, at that case of the two ladies missing in Scotland. But as I say, it depends how much research I can get done tomorrow, and we'll take it from there. But obviously I'll let you know as and when I have made a decision. Laura Mack, that case is so strange. Yeah, it's a bizarre one, isn't it? I've only had a very brief read up on it, and I haven't had a chance today to catch up with what's taking place. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting one. Certainly worth, doing a live stream on, I think, especially to know, to sort of get you guys involved and the chat involved, all that sort of stuff. Just Peachy. Just Peachy. Fantastic name.
Oh my God!
Hey John, enjoy listening while I work. Thanks as always. No, thank you for being here. Thank you one and all, as always. And before we sign off this evening, bloody hell, my voice, hang on a second. Thank God we've got a mute button on here, so you don't have to hear me clearing my throat. Let's just make sure we've got everybody here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Oh, it was a good excuse to use that sound clip. I can't help it. I'm quite addicted to that, I have to be honest. Two of triplets. That's right, Mish. Yeah. Let me just see if I can find a article about it. Give me just 2 seconds, and then if you guys want to check it out after the stream is finished, you can feel free to do so, and we may well do a stream on that tomorrow night. Let's have a look. No, that's someone completely different, so that's not the person I was looking for. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, I'll just put this Sky News link into the chat here a second for you guys. If you want to check this out after the stream is finished, feel free to do so. Oh, 6 likes. Jesus, 6 likes off of 100. Yes, don't forget to hit that like button before you leave this evening, if you wouldn't mind. That'd be greatly appreciated. And there's the link there for that particular case. As I say, we may well cover that tomorrow evening, just as something a little bit different. Or failing that, we will continue on with the case of child N. But I'll let you know probably around lunchtime tomorrow when I put out the video in terms of advertising tomorrow night's stream. Right then, guys. So I'll leave you for this evening. I'll play you a very short outro video that I've created just for my lovely viewers. And yeah, look after yourselves. Thank you to each and every one of you who supported this evening, which is Chrissy McCall, Katya, who has now become a member, Rachel Barker with the generous £9.99 super sticker, Jane with the £4.99, Athena with the £2, and Kaz49 also with the £2 super sticker. Thank you as always for your generous support. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. I would say about 7:30, usual sort of time, but I'll put out the live stream details, as I say, tomorrow around about lunchtime. And again, on top of that, thanks to each and every one of you who has attended this evening: Ms. Blackwell, Lindsay H, John, Alora Mac, Just Peachy, Tweeter, and the Monkey Man.
Oh my God!
Just had to slip one more of those in there. Right, I'll see you all tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow evening. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.